evening. The first one was turned in as Sarah Countryman, as myself. Julie Davis, the last meeting, there was talk, and there was people saying that the police had to get involved to stop the screaming that continued in the parking lot and that there was aggressive behavior. I've got the video here from front of the building I'd like to show, and if you could please tell me where that aggressive behavior happened and when that happened, I'd appreciate it.
I didn't say that.
So. Sorry, it'll take just a second before us to exit the building. Are you able to slide it over to speed it up? Dead time, you don't have to listen while you're watched. I should have marked the moment. Just to clarify, that is me in the black dress walking to my car. And for the record, you're entering the screen. From this angle on this, it doesn't show, but there's just a conversation being had. At no point in time did Bubba, who's been claimed to step, Bubba, you're here if you'd like to. I know you corrected Ms. Simmons and said there was no involvement by you. But if you watch this video, and I'll be more than happy to send it to you, Julie, you'll see Bubba's foot slightly moves, just slightly. I think he was probably getting tired of the conversation, but I won't speak for him. And then things parted and left. So, if there's something that I'm missing here, please let me know. there's where he changed footing. I mentioned. I'm getting in my car and you're walking away. We don't have to, thank you. It's important to go on the record. Next up, Bill Clevenger. Could you please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, my name is Bill Clevenger. I live in Montgomery, Texas. So at the last meeting, there was a narrative tried to play out by the mayor that we do not pay tax. Richard, have you investigated to find out whether Texas Twist and Shakes pays its share of taxes?
You sent me a copy of a receipt where you filed sales taxes on October 19th. As of the report I received yesterday through the month of December, the city has not collected any taxes from the comptroller's office from your company.
Okay, well, that's between you and that, but as we tried to point out to everybody, when you start a business or that, you get set into a time thing of the year report quarterly. We opened up August 6th, so we had the remaining days between August and then September, and anybody that owns a business knows that you need to pay your sales tax by the following month on the 20th. You can even get a discount if you pay it on time, which we received. And so, long story short, we got that receipt from the Texas Comptroller's office, and I forwarded that on to the city administrator, and he has a record of it. Beyond that, I don't know, but it was deducted from our account. So I just want to make it on the record that we did pay our taxes, and we continue. I even provided you with one more receipt, correct? That I showed that we paid.
You sent me a follow-up.
Yeah, because we wouldn't have to pay till January of the following for the fourth quarter, but we just went ahead and made a payment.
And just so you know, Mr. Clevenger, actually sent that to me in October. I did forward it on to council.
Okay. Well, so then, Mayor Countryman, did you see that?
I did.
Okay. So, are you satisfied that we do pay taxes?
I haven't seen it show up on the tax roll yet. So
Right, but you did see the receipt.
I mean, you.
And I can't forge that. I mean, I can't generate that in my own little
I'm not. I
system.
never said you did.
I didn't say you did. I just clarifying that. Great. Well, anyway, thank you.
Okay. Okay, on the consent agenda, item number 1 on your agenda, matters related to the approval of minutes of the August 26, 2021 budget workshop, September 11th, 2021 retreat meeting, September 28th, 2021 workshop meeting, and November 9th, 2021 regular meeting. Number 2, consideration of possible action regarding an escrow agreement by and between the City of Montgomery, Texas and Hale Properties, LLC for a proposed discount tire store, development number 2104. Number 3, consideration of possible action regarding approval of an escrow agreement by and between the City of Montgomery, Texas and Christopher Landis Sr. for the proposed Montgomery Brewing Company development number 2105 and authorizing the city engineer to prepare a feasibility study for the project. Number 4, consideration of possible action regarding an encroachment and maintenance agreement between the City of Montgomery and Troy Tepp for a proposed monument sign on 22453 West FM 1097, Montgomery, Texas 77356. And number 5, consideration of possible action regarding an annual HUD Code Manufactured Homes Park renewal application for Cedar Crest Mobile Home Park. Council, you can take these individually or cumulatively. What is your pleasure?
I move we take them individually.
Second. Is there a particular number you'd like to start? Oh, you said, second, did you say second?
There's a second.
Okay, sorry. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor of taking them individually, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will take the consent agenda individually. Back to item number 1, matters related to the approval of minutes of the August 26, 2021 budget workshop, September 11th, 2021 retreat meeting, September 28th, 2021 workshop meeting, and November 9th, 2021 regular meeting.
I could make a motion that we approve those as presented. Item 1 as presented.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 1 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. All those in favor of accepting item number 1 as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 1 as presented. Item number 2 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding an escrow agreement by and between the City of Montgomery, Texas and Hale Properties LLC for proposed discount tire store, development number 2104.
I'll make a motion that we approve this as item as presented.
I just had a question, and maybe I'm not reading it right, but is it east of Kroger
Yes.
or west?
It's west.
West, sorry, west on the north side of 104.
Yeah, I didn't know if that made a difference, Richard, in the way it's typed up.
It doesn't with relation to the agreement.
Okay, that's the only really question I had there.
It's on the west side?
So do we need a second? I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded to accept item number 2 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, require a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 2 as presented. Item number 3, consideration and possible action regarding approval of an escrow agreement by and between the City of Montgomery, Texas and Christopher Landis Sr. for the proposed Montgomery Brewing Company development number 2105 and authorizing the city engineer to prepare a feasibility study for the project.
I'll make a motion that we approve this item as presented.
Just had a quick question, if I can, for Chris. You know, we had met a few days ago, and I think I mentioned, as long as it takes to get water rights and things of that nature, we want to see something going in Lone Star. We get this brewery. Is this an opportunity to pursue CCN or a certificate, to do anything to get a movement to get that beginning to develop, which may lead to annexation and obviously some good things for the city?
Yes, and that's one of the things that discussing with the developer is the idea of likely coming to MEDC and looking at a participation project. This is kind of the kickstart, because what this development includes is a brewery on site, but it's also a gathering space. So room for games and picnic tables and stuff like that for people to come and spend an afternoon and evening at that spot. So kind of a hub.
Similar to B52, that's down 105.
Smaller scale,
Yeah.
but yes, similar. I think that's the goal, is a similar deal.
Do we need a second?
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 3 as presented. This motion is debatable and amendable and requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 3 as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 3 as presented. Item number 4 on your agenda, consideration and possible action regarding an encroachment and maintenance agreement between the City of Montgomery and Troy Tep for proposed monument sign at 22453 West FM 1097, Montgomery, Texas, 77356. I have a question about this. Where it looks like that the sign is going to go, it looks like it's going to impede traffic when you're coming out and you've got to look west, and it's the fact that it's on a curve. It could potentially be dangerous. I couldn't find anything supporting that didn't look like it.
What page
Maybe if
is
you could
that?
set back a little bit, because
What
it's
page is
going.
that picture on? What would you able to
It's
show
at the
us?
end.
131, 132.
Yeah, if you look to see where the placement was going to be, it looks like it's right on top of the road, and it's running north-south, not east-west. If that helps.
So the edge of the sign, if you look on page 133, so from the edge of the road to the closest edge of the sign is 43 feet.
So, okay, hold on. Can I get there real quick?
Yeah,
Okay, so,
page 133.
got it. Okay.
So if you're sitting on that driveway, there's 43 feet between the edge of the roadway and the closest edge of the sign. So if you look,
Oh, it's hugging their inside
it's
versus...
hugging their
Okay,
inside.
Okay. I was reading it that it was hugging the 1097 and...
correct,
Okay.
flip-flop.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Chris.
I make a motion, we accept item number 4.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 4 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 4 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 4 as presented. Item number 5 is the next business on your agenda. Consideration and possible action regarding the annual HUD Code Manufactured Homes Park renewal application for Cedar Crest Mobile Home Park.
Mayor, if I could add to this, I spoke with the ownership and I went out there today. The item that I had on here is additional work on unit number 7. That has been completed as of today.
I saw it yesterday, it's all new wood.
Yeah, they told me it was done yesterday, so I went out there today. And they also told me it's going to be painted to match the house, but that's not necessary for the approval here, so that's been replaced. When we put this agenda together, they weren't sure of the date this week they have someone out, and that's why we didn't do the condition. So it's clear without that condition.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 5.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 5 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. Open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 5 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 5 as presented. This evening, consideration and possible action. Number 6 on your agenda has been striked, so we will move on to item number 7 on your agenda. Discussion on relocating a historic home to City of Montgomery property.
This is the Womack house that's on a hill on the west side of 149 south of the city. You may remember this item came up, I think it was August 24th. Mr. Miles Marks had come asking if the city would participate in the house moving to this property. Since that time, that apparently did not move forward, the Palmers contacted the city asking if it's something that the city would like to be interested in moving the house to the city property. The mayor and I did go out and look at the property. It's mostly an open concept with several bedrooms to the front. It's in pretty good condition. The electricity is relatively modern. Costs associated with moving into city property that were estimated in September for around $52,500 to move the house. We're looking for is if there's interest from council, this could be either something that could be end up being part of the historic homes we have. It could also be an interim step in terms of spacing relative to city hall staff. What we're asking for is not an approval to actually acquire or move this house, but to find out what actual cost would be and bring that back to city council in January. If council is of a mind to get those numbers and consider it.
And for the record, Ms. Palmer's here, and we read together over Thanksgiving at the Historical Society Thanksgiving, and she mentioned that the house was available. There had been someone interested in purchasing it, and then that fell through or did not happen. So she asked the city, it's an early 1800s building. It's beautiful, and she'd love to see it stay here in the city, obviously, since it's her family, on her family homestead. And my thought was, I said, yeah, let's go take a look at it and put it over at our property on Klepper and let that be our interim offices before we build our new city hall, because we are busting at the seams here, and let PD take over this area. And then when we're done with it in a couple years, it can move, it can stay as like one of the Fernland homes, since it's got a historical designation, and be a visitor center. If you'd like to take a tour, I think it would be great.
Yeah, certainly, it's a beautiful home and certainly meets all the historical requirements we look for the city. A great asset. But when I saw possibility number 2, since we don't really have any plans that I know of to get going on a city hall, as you know, location, it has to be secured. It might make sense to at least get it here in proximity. I know that this City Hall employees are still bursting at the seams, and so since there's no plan in place, it might be a prudent thing to get it here, no doubt. Now, as to whether to set it up on that property or not, I don't know that I would do that. I mean, I would go ahead and set it on Fernland.
Where is it located?
Oh, it's down on 149, that beautiful rolling hill. You see that house on the hill?
Oh, on the hill?
Yes, sir.
And if it's something council thinks it wants to consider, between now and the next council meeting, we can set up the opportunity for council members to get to look at it. That would give us an opportunity to get some pricing and estimates together, and then you could have a real consideration of the item in January. We didn't want to go through any of that work to get all that together if the council wasn't going to be interested.
Anybody have any objections to that, to having the house? Enough to let them move on it?
To get pricing, just to see what it would cost.
At least go that far?
I'm interested in the pricing of it. Like, for instance, once it's there, what does it cost to upkeep it? Because the houses in Fernland need to be upgraded, and I know that they're expensive.
And
So would that price be in this that you're going to work on?
yes, but our thoughts are, if council wants us to investigate it, we will investigate the cost to move it, the cost to do any rehabilitation work necessary to make it usable, the cost to set it up, and try to get some estimates of like maintenance costs, utilities costs for it. While generally the windows from the outside look like they might be original, if they're actually modern, efficient windows that have been added. There's also been heating or an HVAC system that's been added to the house in the past. So there are some more modern touches to it, even though it's in 1800 house.
Insulation has been added too.
And are you going to get a quote from this Cherry House mover again?
We'll get,
Since it wasn't for the city, it was for someone else?
yes, ma'am. We'll get updated quotes on moving. We'll also have someone, a home inspector, look at the home to give us information that's up there, their area of expertise as well.
2 or 3 quotes to move it?
But it'll depend on, house moving, I think is maybe a little more difficult, but we'll work on getting multiple quotes certainly.
Well, there's 3 or 4 house movers in the area.
Yeah, I think you're right in getting all the quotes for the house moving, the updating, what would it be to be ready to move in and how long would that take? And if it makes financial sense or not for us to do that. Otherwise, our only other alternative is to go rent somewhere rather quickly because of boxes and tables being stored in hallways and offices.
So if we move it on those acres by the school?
That's one thought. Certainly that's something that we can work a plan and bring it back to council if there's another better place forward. I'm open to the suggestion as well. That is certainly land that the city has, and it's right by another facility of ours, which is Fernland.
What kind of motion we need?
And then when we get the sidewalks, there'll be walkability for lunch and dinner and breakfast.
Well, it sounds like there's enough interest in council, so we will carry that through until the next month, and then we'll bring that to you with a more formal agenda item.
Okay.
Item number 8 on your agenda, consideration and possible action regarding board appointments to the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation Board for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2022.
The Economic Development Corporation has 3 positions due for appointment due to expiration of terms. 2 of these appointments are from the general public. They're currently held by Dan Walker and Armin Beasley. And 1 position is from the governing body. That position that's up currently from the governing body is held by Byron Sanford. As a point of reference, Carol Langley is the other member from the governing body who is serving an alternating term. All of these 3 terms will run from January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2023. We accepted applications for these positions and we received 2. One was from Dan Walker and one was from Wade Nelson. Both of those are included with the packet. So there's 2 applications for those 2 positions from the general public. And as an added note, in speaking with Councilmember Byron Sanford, he did indicate to me it will continue to serve in the position. Certainly, I'm sure he can speak for himself when we come to that item.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Dan Walker, Mr. Wade Nelson, and Mr. Byron Sanford to the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation Board.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the appointment of Dan Walker, Wade Nelson, and Byron Sanford to the Montgomery Economic Development Board. This motion is debatable and amendable and requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the appointment for Dan Walker, Wade Nelson, and Byron Sanford to the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the appointment for Dan Walker, Wade Nelson, and Byron Sanford to the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation. Item number 10 on your agenda, consideration of possible action on calling the public...
Number 9.
Oh, I apologize, you're right. Number 9, consideration of possible action to authorize amending the bylaws of the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation.
At the November 15th meeting, the MEDC Board of Directors approved a motion to amend the bylaws of the MEDC to clarify the language describing the terms of office. According to the bylaws, after the MEDC would approve those for them to take effect, the City Council must also approve it. The reason for the change is there's some confusing language in the terms of office. The terms are by statute as well as elsewise stated. The bylaws are 2-year terms. But the way they were described in the language, they appear to be 3-year terms. And so I have in the agenda report what the language is in italics, and then you drop down, you see strike out for odd number, you strike out for even numbered year. So what it did was it started from one odd numbered year and went to the end of the next odd numbered year. Well, that's really 3 years if you count the years, and it's supposed to be a 2-year term. So if you strike out odd number, even number, it's just the next following year. So from the beginning of one year to the end of the next year. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to take those. Otherwise, I think this is really more than anything else.
I think it's still written confusing, and it would probably add more ease if you just changed December 31st to January 1st. Both spots, but that's just my opinion and semantics, so.
I think you're right. I was just trying to make the least possible change and get it correct.
Yeah. I had to read it 3 times to realize. Yeah.
I think these bylaws have been in place since the 90s, and it hadn't been used before, and I think part of that is, as you say, the confusing nature of it. I will make a note that if we take that up in the future, and just maybe just rewrite that portion.
The only reason I say that is because by having the odd years and the even years, it instantly allows you to know that 24680, we're changing these seats, and
Right.
13579, we're changing these. So that's the only reason I thought odd and even were beneficial. But that's just, again, a semantics, and both solve the problem, so.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion we accept item number 9 with the changes as noted.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that we will accept item number 9 with the changes as noted. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor of accepting item number 9 as accepted, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 9 with the noted changes. Now, item number 10. Consideration of possible action on calling a public hearing for January 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. related to a special use permit application for a microblading studio located at 20165 Eva Street, Suite C, Montgomery, Texas.
Mayor and City Council, good evening. A special use permit is used in this case. I'm sure that everyone has heard now of microblading. The state licenses that as a tattoo license or under the same license, and according to our zoning laws, in most cities, a tattoo parlor requires a special use permit or essentially the permission of council. So we're not talking about a tattoo parlor, but But we are talking about technically the same thing in the microblading. What we're asking you to do tonight is to call a public hearing in January that would allow us to publish our legal notice and get the ordinance prepared. As I mentioned, we already have a couple in town. And I'm happy to answer any thoughts or questions you have.
I make a motion to call a public hearing for January the 11th at 6 o'clock related to a special use permit for microblading studio located at 20165 Eva Street, Montgomery, Texas.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the public hearing for January 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. related to a special use permit application for microblading studio located at 20165 Eva Street, Suite C, Montgomery, Texas. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion.
Dave, you will make sure that she is present at the public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the public hearing set for January 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. related to a special use permit application for a microblading studio located at 20165 Eva Street, Suite C in Montgomery, Texas, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the public hearing for January 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. related to a special use permit application for microblading studio located at 20165 Eva Street, Suite C, Montgomery, Texas. Next item of business on your agenda is item number 11. Consideration and possible action regarding calling a public hearing for a rezoning request from R1 Single Family Residential to B Commercial for 14855 North Liberty Street, Montgomery, Texas.
Mayor and Council again, this is the property that you may be familiar with at the bottom of the hill leading north on 149 out downtown on the left. The Easleys have owned the property for a couple of years, and in the past 6 months or so they've been doing a lot of work to get the house up to standards and to get the site cleared of a lot of debris. They asked to rezone the property from single-family residential to commercial. You see an exhibit there. I'm happy to answer any thoughts on that.
Besides the plan itself, was there some area there that our police anticipated may be used for their purposes of training? Did I hear that somewhere?
I think there's been a few ideas on, kind of what and where, would be the best use. There's about 2 acres that make up the old sewer plant site, and there's about 8.5 of just kind of a residual acreage that's largely floodplain and, steep water. But the city owns, again, 10.5 acres just to the west of the property.
City owns most of what's blue.
So would that house become a business then? Is that what he's looking to do, or is he looking, he's just redone the house, so he's not going to knock it down, right?
We were at the planning and zoning meeting, and Phil Simpson, one of the commissioners, mentioned that he thought that Mr. Easley wanted to locate his own business. As you know, he owns a cleaning business that does a whole lot of work in the county, in Harris County, that he was thinking about that. I don't have any knowledge of that, but again, it sounded like Mr. Simpson had talked to something.
So when we do the public hearing, then if it's changed to commercial, he has a lot of things to deal with the city, making it into a commercial piece of property.
If he added, say a parking lot or storage buildings or anything like that, that's going to be the development process that we set out.
So you're saying he doesn't have to?
Well, if he came in and said he was just going to open up an administrative office there, that would be, I don't know the size of his operation, but again, if he were looking to build outbuildings and, pay lots and things like that to keep equipment, then he would need to. But if he were going to use it as his administrative offices and have, 3 or 4 clerical positions there, then I don't know what he would need to do to come in to do that, as long as he was open.
But he could do that as a single-family residential, leaving it zoned that.
with the special use permit, you could, that we would, but otherwise.
Well, it would be more like a home-based business, because I probably wouldn't be going there.
As long as you're not more than 25% of the
Right.
the residents, and then I don't know, that would get into what residents who live there, but using, I think what he's looking for is, one is long-term predictability, candidly, if the value of commercial property is,
Right.
On these corridors that again, to a reasonable person, it is hard to think that the commercial use there isn't a reasonable,
Right.
aspect as to, but
That is
you
true.
understand, anytime you turn single family, into commercial, something you should give pause and, really consider.
But the only thing that we're considering tonight is setting this for a special public hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That is a very good point. Before we get too far into anything, what we do first is we call that public hearing, planning and zoning is going to have one as well. And then y'all take action, once y'all get their report, and y'all have a vote. So-
And you'll make sure Mr. Easley's there so we can ask some of these questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve this item 11 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve item number 11 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 11 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 11 as presented. Item number 12 on your agenda. Consideration of possible action regarding calling a public hearing for a rezoning request from B commercial to R1 single family residential for Hills of Town Creek, Section 5.
Mayor and Council, again, this is very similar to the last request. We were just being asked to call a public hearing for the 11th. This in opposite of the last request, we went from commercial property to single family residential with a new section of Hills of Town Creek.
So would we need the developer or Stylecraft representative or both for this?
We really don't. They submitted now, it does happen tonight, it's gotten here, but not for any type of a public hearing or anything. The request is from the landowners, which is Mr. Cheatham and a William Barnier. So,
Do they plan to move quickly on this? Like they need this done within the next 30 days? Do you know?
I can say yes, in the essence that once we start splitting lots up, we're looking at rezoning 72 or 78 individual properties versus the 2 properties that we're looking at here. In 2019, we had to rezone sections 2 and 3 after they were split up, and it was just a lot of work. So what we're looking to do here, we know it's going to single family residential. We're trying to get ahead of that subdivision of land and allow the zone.
My only concern is that this is now 3 public hearings set for January the 11th, and we're not meeting at the end of this month, which means that this agenda that's 391 pages was going to duplicate for January 11th's meeting and probably most likely be another very large meeting. And so then 3 public hearings before that.
Right. I will say that, without, you never know who's going to show up for public hearings.
True.
My experience in particular on a non-contentious, rezoning, the mayor's going to open that public hearing, wait about 30 or 45 seconds and not get any comments further.
Okay.
But if you would like to look at delayed, I would, this schedule is what the developer has asked for, and we think it's, reasonable in the request, if you can handle that.
I'll make a motion to call the public hearing for a rezoning request for Hills of Town Creek, Section 5, from commercial to single-family residential.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that we call a public hearing for rezoning request for Hills of Town Creek, Section 5, from commercial to single family. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. Open for discussion.
Mayor, can I ask that we put the date and time and location for the...
I'm sorry, it wasn't on the agenda, so
Yeah, so it's for the 11th.
January the 11th.
It doesn't say a time on here, so I imagine 6 o'clock is our standard. All those in favor of calling a public hearing for rezoning request for Hills of Town Creek, Section 5, from B Commercial to R1 Single Family on January 11th at 6 p.m., say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we'll have a public hearing for rezoning request for Hills of Town Creek, Section 5, from commercial to residential on January 11th at 6 p.m. at City Hall, and that's of 2022. Number 13 on your agenda. Consideration and possible action by the Montgomery City Council acting as the zoning board of adjustment regarding the following zoning variance request for Hills of Town Creek, Section 5. A, lot width less than 75 feet. B, side yard setback less than 10 feet. And C, lot size less than 9,000 square feet.
Mayor and council, again, this item before you tonight, you see when, again, what our subdivision ordinance and what our zoning ordinance more specifically requires when it comes to the subdivision of land are a larger lot footprint than what you see out of Hills of Town Creek and what you see in certain sections of Buffalo Springs. What the developer here is asking to do for the newest section of Hills of Town Creek is to build the same product on the ground as what he was doing in the previous 3 single-family sections. So, and again, this gives you kind of your 50, John, am I right, 50-foot lot lines, 5 foot on either side, which gives you 10-foot total in between the lots. Again, it's exactly what you see in sections 2 and 3.
Are we still holding them to the standard for compensating green space when we give these concessions?
We are when it's applicable, yes, ma'am, absolutely.
I had a meeting with the developer just yesterday, and he just reinforced what we do know. These are hot products. This is what the market is, and this is where we need to build. So I'll make a motion we approve this item.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 13 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 13 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 13 as presented. Next item of business on your agenda is item number 14. Consideration of possible action by the Montgomery City Council acting as the zoning board of adjustment regarding the following zoning variance request for Porter Farm single-family residential development. A, lot width less than 75 feet. B, side yard setback less than 10 feet. And C, lot size less than 9,000 square feet.
Mayor and council, again, a very similar home product is being proposed here. This is a new development. If you recall, several months ago, we spoke to Charles Smith with Waterstone, who was here tonight, about what was hoped to be a more affordable home product. I did want to update you guys, as you see in the agenda report there, some of the site design things have changed, and so we're looking at more of I think when we talked to council, we were in the 220, low 200 price range. Now we're at about the 260 or so price. And, Mr. Bucks, is there anything that you want to talk about here? I don't want to speak all your thunder, but I'm going to just go through these, summary points. But is there anything that you guys want to talk to him about? What we're asking about is I don't know that I feel like this was, that it had to be an affordable home product, but just to us at the staff level, we didn't want to make this, either the last thing that council heard was we're, hearing more affordable homes, but it comes out to be in the 260 range. Is there anything in there that gives you pause? Again, to recap kind of the funding mechanism, there's several ways to pay for the water, sewer, the roads, ones and development agreements, the city's used those in the past. This development is initially proposed to use a bid, which is a public improvement district. It's a whole lot like a tax. It's just, technically an assessment. Works through the tax office just like the tax. Right now, that number is, while it's initially ranking near $600 for the annual assessment for each lot. Right now, I think he's looking at closer to $1,100, $1,099. That's an annual assessment, and the developer's asked if you guys might, again, looking toward some notion of a development type agreement, if you're interested in some type of, maybe a buyout through either a TERS or some type of tax relief.
So tonight, we're just approving the change in lot size and then we would talk about those mechanisms at another
The other
time.
stuff is just to give you guys a, snapshot of where we are today. If it gets anybody heartburn, I'll talk about it now. But yes, ma'am, we are just discussing these three variances here in the zoning board.
So a lot would be less than 75, would be going to what, 50?
50 for the 5-foot line.
50-foot lot.
Yes.
You got enough acre land plan.
Mayor and council, this is a modified plan. We originally had 128 lots, but the reality is the eastern portion, we created much more in the way of detention and green belts over there, and so we ended up now with a total of 90 lots for the subdivision. And that's one of the biggest changes is the cyclical economics of roads, sewer lines, and obviously property acquisition. We're still going to do our very best to get the price as low as possible, but we are dealing in a world where prices seem to change by the hour versus by the month or the year as we've been in the past. And that's our biggest concern. We're going to show the council it's got 2 entrances, an easy in and an easy out. And we've been working with city engineer and staff about getting our sewer and water out and across 1097 underneath the highway there. So we just thought this graphic might help you.
So there's, the entrances are 149?
Yes.
Okay.
We originally had
On a 2-lane road?
Is that close to that hill? That north entrance?
Yes.
How are we gonna handle that one? When they come up over that hill? That second entrance. That's kind of a blind spot coming over that hill.
My question. Joel, help me. Get the crest of the hill up here.
That would be helpful to know.
Yeah. Where's the crest of the hill? The crest of the hill is just north of the property.
It is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when they come around that curve, you got that light.
His house sit just below. Okay? The crest, she's right there, kind of the crest of the hill. Sure there is, Councilman. And so we're up on top of that hill.
That's a short distance. We're thinking about doing the speed limit in there, maybe having that change.
So, bring this to you. Sure, so
Upside down.
yeah, this is,
There's no way to get an exit off
Right.
1097 at that light still.
well, no, you get back here, this comes back to Thomas Road. Okay, and Thomas Road.
Oh, they're gonna have an entrance in Thomas?
No.
Here's the entrance off one.
Just go to, okay.
Okay.
With those streets. 1097 in here, where is it?
No, that's 149.
Well, this,
Down, down.
yeah,
Okay.
see, this is
Yeah.
easily evident right there. Yeah, so this is the properties that 1097 is right here. Right.
Do you have a solution to that, Chris?
No, I was just saying, that is, since that's a text dot road, they'll have to go to text dot, get permits from text dot. And that's something that they're definitely going to be looking at regarding site distance and the spacing between the intersections and the roads to make sure it meets all their criteria. And it could come back, they're going to require a traffic impact analysis to be completed and submit to text dot to see if there's mitigating factors that need to be put in to account for that. So at this stage of development, it's still subject to change. This is Also needs TxDOT's approval on the driveways. So there's definitely details to be worked out to make sure it's safe.
Are they planning on having sidewalks there too?
There's going to be stuff within the development, yes, there's sidewalks throughout in the greens to get people from the green space and the other inside the development. As far as on 1097, to be determined on where the sidewalks go. If we at least connect the two and leave stuff out so it can be extended in the future, there's, at this stage of the game, that's the level of detail that we're at. But sidewalks, there's been the concept of trying to connect this over to Homecoming Park and on to the school. So, a continuation to more of a safe route to school, a walking route to school. Kind of those ideas have been kicked around at this stage. For them to continue with their development is getting these variances approved so that they can refine their site plan, knowing that these is the criteria that they're going to be working with, and then continue down the process with the funding and with the other mechanisms.
Any chance they could take, sorry, Tim.
Go ahead.
Any chance they could take the 149 monies that we have already got dedicated north of 105 for the expansion? This is just a little bit further from there. Any way that we can get the combined and get it done quicker?
As far as sidewalks?
No, the expansion of the road, the improvement of the roads.
That's all going to be subject to TxDOT. So I mean,
But would they look at something, that's what I'm asking, would they combine both projects and both entities together?
I don't think so, because the funding and the timing of any improvements that they would do are going to be funded by the developer versus TxDOT having their budget set aside for the final plans for the 149 improvements. So I don't think that they would hold up the developer until the rest of it, but it would be taken into consideration.
But I thought the money was already earmarked for downtown 149, so it's there.
The layest I saw was it was, in the 6 to 8 years out range.
Whoa. 6 to 8 years out to expand 149 north of 105?
As of the latest, so we were looking at the latest TxDOT kind of projections of projects. Maybe we're missing things, but the 149 improvements that I saw that were listed on there were in a 5 to 10 year range.
So they were they were on go 5 years ago, and now so then you're talking
And that's what
10
they
to 15
explained.
years that.
Correct. A couple years ago, they were on the funding cycle, and since the project didn't go forward, it moved it back. And now at this point, I think at that time it was, it moves it back to 2025, 2026, which is that 10-year range. But that's still to be officially determined. And I think with support of the final plans and the city development.
So with the rapid growth that we're experiencing, the 518 wheelers going through the center of our town, 149, 105, 15,000 cars going at Buffalo Springs, in Lone Star Parkway. There's probably easy 30,000 cars, 25,000 cars. We can't wait another 6 years or 5 years for the expansion. There's no way, not with all the houses coming within the city and then down 1097 east and west.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely continued conversations and pressure with TxDOT to get the timing of those nailed down and get those approved.
I'm going to ask an ignorant question. They are aware that we're in hyper-growth mode and they know that people are coming and even the school district's expecting 5,000 homes here in the next 3 years, 2 years.
Right.
So once that subdivision is in there, it's going to affect the property value of all the people around there, right?
That's correct.
Do you have any idea how far it is from the light at 1097 to the first entrance would be?
I can look that up. I don't have that number in front of me. Let's see if I can show on the plan. I don't. I can look it up and I can let you know.
So I know we're just here to approve the lot size, and we're kind of going off on that.
Right, and they'll come back to
That's-
the preliminary
it's-
plat and
it's a
everything else,
little-
but there's a lot
concerning.
going on with all these developments.
And I know money and price and cost of things is fluctuating, but are we, as a city council, do we have any control once the PID is formed to set a maximum dollar amount? 600 is what's on here, and you're saying 1,000 to 1,200 is what they're projecting to charge as a fee, but
Yes. do have experience with kids to know, kind of during the kid creation process, my sense is it works like another special district in that there's, that talk is established, in the creation process. I just do not know the specifics of it.
So typically, the developer provides their information to council, and council is fully informed before they make a decision and can make the decision at that point.
Right, to that point, it won't be something that we're having to create for them. If they go out, they hire an attorney, and they come to us with the things they're sure.
To answer your question, Councilwoman, before you approve a PID, it is absolutely set in concrete exactly what the assessment is, exactly how long it is. That's one of the biggest advantages of a PID over a MUD, which of course we know is its own living, breathing entity, and they're very necessary. We do use them, but we've discovered that the PID is a lot more user-friendly to the consumer because they have a fixed amount. It doesn't go up like a tax, so as their property value increases, their effective tax rate, and I know it's not a tax, and I've been scolded many times for calling it that, so you'll please excuse me, and the attorney will probably call me later and say, I told you. It's not a tax, but the effective rate goes down. But before council approves it, we give you an exact amount that's going to be assessed, and so there is no question. It can't change after council, and it's set in stone, and it can't be extended or expanded without a new PID being formed by council. So it is about as guaranteed as you can get in this world.
I do like PIDs when they're written well.
It's a four-letter word. We're in a really nasty pit that happened years ago. So, but that won't happen this time.
Yeah.
Well, then perhaps we'll be able to create a PID that you'll say, we forgot that. They work very well.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning variance request for Porter Farms, the lot width, the side yard, and the lot size as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the zoning variance request for Porter Farms with regard to lot size, side yard, and lot size and square footage. This motion is debatable. Minimal requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the zoning variance request for Porter Farms with the lot width less than and side yard and lot size less than. Next item of business on your agenda, 15, consideration of possible action regarding authorization of City Council to participate in the cost of upsizing approximately 870 linear feet of a planned 8-inch water line to a 12-inch water line in Town Creek Crossing Section 1 in accordance with Section 90-1067, parentheses 7, of the City Code of Ordinances.
All right, good evening. In your packets, if you'll flip to page 230 and 231. Really, if we start on 231 to kind of paint the picture of what this was as a reminder. So as part of your capital improvement plan, your master plan, we had a closing a water line loop from Buffalo Springs to 149, an additional water line loop into the city. When the development for Town Creek Crossing came forward, we had a discussion with them about putting that 12-inch water line through their development so we don't have extra lines out on Windsor Parkway that have no use, as well as being able to share that cost versus then the city bear the cost completely. So in section 1, if you look on page 231, you'll see the solid gold blue line going through section 1, so it's about 870 feet included in this, and then you'll see what's proposed within section 2, and then on out to where our existing water lines are at Pleasant, Morgan, and Lone Star Parkway to close that loop. So as the ordinance states, the city will pay for the difference in cost. So if you look on page 230, you'll see the price. It's not shown on here. I apologize for that. So they publicly bid the project because this is a MUD. So they have an 8-inch water line price and a 12-inch water line price. The price difference between those was $13, and then those individual items are shown. So the total cost difference to upsize the line is $14,160. So the request is to authorize payment of that upsizing as it was on, one, part of the orders, but two, it's on your master plan as an item that we're trying to get completed. So this is partnering with the developer to get that done.
I make a motion that we approve item 15 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 15 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 15 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 15 as presented. Number 16, consideration of possible action regarding final acceptance and completion of the one-year warranty period for public infrastructure included in Hills of Town Creek, Section 3, Development Number 1019.
All right, we can meet again. This item starts on page 233 of your packets and continues on for a good amount of pages, just a lot of backup. So we'll kind of run through the quick history. The history is in your packet, both from the developer and from us, and kind of go through the reason why and kind of the point that we're at. So this warranty period originally ended in January of 2020, so we're coming up on 2 years. During that time, when the one-year warranty inspection was done, the original contractor for the work had gone out of business, and is still out of business today. So it was requested at that time to postpone addressing the punch list items until the Hills of Town Creek 4 contractor was on site for cost savings, et cetera, because he's already there, just going across the street. And so that was agreed to wait and continue with the work, or postpone the work. Once the contractor, Hills of Town Creek 4, completed the first initial round of repairs, there was additional flooding of the streets done, check the river bathing, and it's been a kind of ongoing process since then of issues and addressing pieces. Since the original contractor went out of business, this was not obviously under a warranty, so all the costs that have been completed to replace multiple sections of the road, to grind the curb, to try to provide positive drainage have been borne by the developer, which is Stylecraft in this case. So, as most recently as of December 1st, we went and re-flooded the streets because the issue has been the back and forth is ponding within the streets of standing water. So if you look on your packets, moving over to page 235, you'll see this is from December 1st. We're continuing on some drone images of, this is the cul-de-sac of Scenic Hills Court. At 2 hours after the street was flooded, 24 and 48. So you can see how that changed. Obviously a lot of water at 2 hours, as is expected. 24, very minimal, down to one section, and that same section remains in the 48 hours. So the second location is on Rocks Lane at the curve. And again, you'll see the same time frame, 2 hours, 24, 48, where there's ponding in the streets. Now, what is shown in a lot of the information provided elsewhere is what it looked like prior to, which is why you didn't re-provide it, so you didn't have multiple pictures. The work that was done to help reduce the flooding and reduce, I'm not going to say flooding, to reduce the ponding in the streets. And the main question now is, how do we want to proceed? So the streets do function. They drain water. They're holding, it's an aesthetic of holding the water in the streets in the center of the cul-de-sac. Also, one thing to note is, when these photos were taken, in any time, it's not a controlled environment. So there's a lot of irrigation in the neighborhood, and you'll see on some of the photos provided by L Squared, when the builder had control of a lot of these houses earlier in the summer, they were able to turn on the irrigation, and when they took it, the water wasn't, it was able to dry. So, I think right now is just best kind of open up the questions y'all have. Ultimately, what the request is to accept the streets, accept the infrastructure, and officially in the one-year warranty period is the action item.
And if we accept this, that means we are responsible for future improvements and needs and...
That's correct. That's correct. So right now, it's still kind of in a carry-on warranty period. And then once they're accepted, any future work on those streets are the city's responsibility.
And we aren't even addressing the horrible patch job that's on Scenic Drive. Like, we're just addressing the ponding issue, but there's an awful patch job.
And on the patch job, in Jonathan's memo, he does have mentioned that they understand that it is not smooth, and the contractor is going back out to re-smooth the surface because it is not a smooth patch in front of the house. Everyone has agreed, the contractor has agreed.
It looks like a 3-year-old went out and played with finger paints in the cement. That's the best analogy.
Yes.
No, I didn't.
Gentlemen, will you stand up there just for, thank you, gentlemen.
So just specifically on that, I drove out there right before this meeting. On Friday, they basically took basically a sander and kind of grind it out and basically sand it. Because a lot of the patch job where it ties into that existing concrete, there looked like at one point to be a tire track through it, a drag mark of something, even from the original patch of that triangle. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing. I think they've been out there like 6 different times, and it's a patch on top of a patch on top of a patch. Just the way it blended back to existing was really terrible, and they recognized that first at the pictures. So they went out there and basically sanded it, and I think it looks night and day difference. I will say that aesthetically, you will have 2 different colors of concrete for a while, just simply because you have some concrete that's cured for 2 years, you have some concrete that's just been recently patched, but over time, that will start to blend back together. It won't ever be perfect, but at least with that kind of core finishing groundwork, they did. It looked much better when I was out there today.
Are we accepting something already broken?
I mean, it comes down to, previous sections of Hills and Town Creek, there was bird bathing that was getting worse over time. And so the city was having to do work and raise the streets and put fill underneath the streets to address those bird bathing, which was along the gutter line. No, I'm saying it's broken. I can't say that it's broken, but there is an aesthetic component to it that it is not a completely dry street. There isn't a perfect smooth finish, but it's I wouldn't say that it's a broken street that is going to fail because of this, but it's going to be. It has the aesthetic issues that you see in the pictures.
And just to let y'all know, for the future sections, with 4 that just got completed. We've recognized the issue within 2 that the city had to go repair a couple years after it was accepted. With the issues that arose in 3, we've had 3 different geotechnical consultants on this project. Each one has had the same recommendation of stabilization underneath the roadway. They've tested through CMT testing throughout the project, but yet there's still a problem. So within 4, Hills County 4, they still did the minimum 6 inches of stabilization recommendation. And I went ahead and asked the lab to up that to 8 inches, just a little bit further insurance, and we would consider, or not consider, we will be doing that with the extension of Evans Way and for Hills 5, because we just recognize that we just want to try to put it into this if these recommendations that we're trying to follow aren't actually working the way that we intend to.
Chris, when we talked a couple of weeks ago, you made the statement it's going to be a matter of can we live with it type of thing. And so I did the informal when I do my daily walk, and I go by and I catch people. I say, what do you think? And I didn't find one that was happy with it. And so, my side on the rocks is fine because most of that's my water. When I water my water, it all goes out there. And so some of that is that. But what I notice is grime and dirt, where there's ponding, there's going to be grime and dirt. And I look to my left, I look to my right. So this aesthetic thing is a big deal, I think. And I would hate to see all of so a lot of the people were saying, should we have to live with this? It's not can we, but should we have to live with this? So I'm just wondering, do we have this problem in other areas of the city, or is it just phase 1, 2, and 3 of, well, it's really just 2 and 3, I guess, of my subdivision?
I mean, this has been the most, where the issues and the repairs with bird bathing have been within the city, have been in that area. Now, to caveat that, Lake Creek Village and Buffalo Springs are private streets. So those aren't city responsibility in their own ditch. Those are different. Town Creek Crossing is public streets, and what's being done there is why it's not here tonight. Is when we did the flooding test for the initial acceptance, there's a couple areas of concern, which is what's being addressed currently, again, before final, and then obviously before flooding. Our streets like this throughout the county are there, yes, there's neighborhoods that there's water, the gutter line, which is where you want the water. The cul-de-sac, you don't expect to see water in the middle of the cul-de-sac, you expect to see it on the gutter line of the street. So, is there other areas that have this problem? Yes, there's streets that hold water all over the place. is this a newer street that you're initially taking acceptance over and it already has an aesthetic, I'm sticking to the aesthetic problem? Yes. I mean, it's there, pictures don't lie of what it is today under normal conditions. So that's kind of the situation right now. Is it, we went back and we looked at, the original construction plans, the original, standards, and there's not there's minimum slopes, there's minimum, design standards that were followed for this project. It's just, there's a low spot in the concrete that's in the whole water in that area, and it's just been a continual issue. So,
The developer, so,
It needs to be at the podium, so for evening. Chris, so water over time, we all know, can break down wherever it's sitting, right? If it's land, if it's, rocks, everything, and wood. And what's the breakdown? Like, what's the lifespan of the road? Are we going to say, okay, we're just going to patch this in 2 years and then we've got to repave it? Is this going to be something we're going to be doing every 6 months?
No, I think, the fix for this is a replacement of that core cul-de-sac. It's ripping out, replacing it, and regrading it to get it to drain and to get that low spot out. As far as the continual issue, the worry with obviously water on the streets is it gets into the joints, it gets underneath. This is ponding on the surface, it is next to a joint. I don't see this leading to a lot of, undermining the street. We don't have water rushing across this. This is not deep. But again, it's still water on top of pavement. People are driving through it. It's holding. There's always a chance of something, going wrong on the streets.
Stephen Grove, Stalcraft. We were the developers on this and been working with the city on trying to find a resolution, as you know, for quite some time. Our contractor went bankrupt. We stepped in and spent $100,000 or more fixing these issues. I would ask, my main concern is that we addressed what the city asked us to address several times throughout this process, and we sat down with the city this summer and asked, all right, these are the last 2 items, and we've gone out and addressed those. And in that agreement, we were told nothing else will be added, and now we're back here 6 months later with things being added. And that's our concern, as that continues to happen. What is the end? As Chris alluded to, an ongoing punch list. That's not really something that...
That's not advantageous for you,
it's
right?
not advantageous for anyone, really. I mean, we want to resolve this, and we're trying to work to the satisfaction of the city. But our concern is this, things continue to be added. And
did you get that in writing, just the 2 items?
We had a written memo between us and city staff that said nothing else would be added.
Okay.
And now we're here today having more things added to it. And that's my biggest concern. We have been working to find a resolution because we want our buyers and our communities to be happy, and we try to build a quality subdivision.
You've done a great job in this community.
And we love
You've got a good name
we love
here.
working here.
You do build a great home. I've never had anybody tell me the home itself wasn't a problem. There's some topography issues. There's a lot of issues there. I was pleased on my walk in Phase 4 to see several moments in which they were using tape measures. Great job. I was thinking, let's figure this thing out because it will not run uphill. So with that said, Kevin's not here to represent himself, but he lives on that curve. And then I drove by this evening all the way up here. It's still sitting there. Does the man not water his yard? I mean, and here's this place for it to drain. So I'm talking to all of us.
In the same picture, the drain, right?
Yeah, and then there's rust spots there. I don't know how Luke got there, but still, that water's just sitting there. It's always sitting there when I walk there. There's never a time that water's not sitting there. And so is that drain.
Yeah, so, the drain is there, and I know the memo was kind of lengthy that we sent out, but specific to that repair, we did grind out a decent area that actually improved that situation a lot. But we also don't want to sacrifice reducing that depth of the concrete, too much. So we're talking about half an inch to try to grind that out as much as possible. I know my subdivision, I don't know who waters their yard as much as some of these people do, but 24/7 there's water. It's draining downhill and ultimately getting out, but literally 24/7 there's water down that gutter line. Our gutters are black. As if, subdivision that's 5 years old. I'm not saying that this is a perfect situation here by any means, but I do find that it is common that you may see water going down the gutter line in that situation. It's definitely not, we definitely don't want it ponding in the middle of a cul-de-sac. I think that was just poor implementation by the contractor. I don't think it's a failing type situation. I don't think it was necessarily something that has gotten worse, especially over 2 years we've been looking at it. I think it was poor implementation by the contractor to making sure that things were getting to the gutter line and going down. And the unfortunate part is that contractor went under. It's already been $100,000 spent today, not including all the liens that they had to pay off because they didn't pay their bills. So, I know Sawcraft wants to be here for a long time. They're not developing personally anymore. They're just taking on the lots from the developer. So they're taking the responsibility of these new streets. But we're just trying to figure out what we can do to get to acceptance. Because I know it's been a long time coming from both sides. So.
I think it's unfortunate that you were told there was two things, got it in writing, and then we're asking more of you. Right?
That's a problem for me, too.
It's problematic, for sure. Now, at the same time, I don't think it's right for the city and the taxpayers to take on something that's broken and an issue. Us knowing we're taking on something that's an issue. Yes, I've seen water. I too walk with the city and I see water down on gutters, but it's due to irrigation at that time. And it dries up, right? Because they're both of them on the hill that I see. But
Water along a curb isn't the big issue. I feel like water in the middle of the cul-de-sac is the biggest issue. Because
for sure.
It's not running where it needs to run. It's in the middle of the street.
I purchased one of the homes here on the Scenic Hills Court, and I just want to say that you've improved it a whole lot from the first day I walked in it. The water is standing in some areas, but not like it was. So thank you for taking care of it so far.
We've done our best to satisfy the city.
Yes.
Again, our concern.
It's really improved. Thank you.
It's harder to keep moving that goal line.
Yes, ma'am.
And to address that, the two issues that were reported was one, ponding in Hillstown and Scenic Hills cul-de-sac and the Brox Lane turn. So the Brox Lane turn, the work that was done was the grinding, and it reduced that ponding, the area that bumps out to the street, that has been reduced due to the grinding work that was done. If you look, the panel that was replaced, which is on the bottom left of the cul-de-sac, we're looking at page 35. Now, that was the area that was the worst. When that was replaced, the area that is still wet in these pictures became the worst. So, it wasn't the intent of, replace this one panel, and I know that's a source of disagreement, and this is it. It was addressing the cul-de-sac drainage and addressing the turn. So, again, why we brought it to y'all is because we're at a point where the streets function, but there's aesthetic issues. The developer has made a lot of effort to make them right and a lot of dollars spent in a situation that, quite frankly, tell me if y'all disagree, but if the original contractor was still in business or different, it would not be the same issue that we have today. Right. Just because of, one, the quality of construction, and two, the fact that he's not able to honor his warranties that he gave to the developers, so the developers have to pay for this cost. So, what we're looking for is, are we okay with what we have? Do we want additional work to be done? And how do we want to accomplish, from what I hear from y'all, addressing the ponding in the cul-de-sac to an acceptable level?
What else is there to do? What else can be done?
So the two options that have been looked at are injecting underneath the street to try to raise it. The problem with that is we can't just really do the one panel, we have to do the whole cul-de-sac. And I think the quote came back for that, this was a little old, was around $90,000, $80,000 to do that. The second option is replacing that panel and trying to slope everything out. Potentially, I don't have survey Christian Grace to confirm, but if this is just a low spot and if it was able to be grounded in to reduce the ponding in that area to get it to flow off, that's potential.
But if you grout it in over time with people driving on it, that's an even higher chance of it cracking coming right up.
That's correct. I completely agree. I'm just saying, of options to reduce the ponding, now you have a thin piece of concrete on top that could crack and swallow over time, and we're right back to the same situation.
I feel like even if we take and say, hey, we want to replace this panel, that this is going to be like Duck Duck Goose. We said do this one, and oh wait, the water moved here, and now we're going to say do this one, and the next thing we know, the next low spot's going to be that southwest side, because...
Let's say you take out one panel, you're still tying it into both sides, right?
Right.
And so, to all corners of that, so it's going to be very difficult to try to get that.
Right.
If it was on a gutter line that was holding over the water, we can grind, we can get back and daylight it. And sitting in the middle of this spot is just this small depression, which probably boils down to just about that drop out. You just didn't quite slip off and let it off. I know the cost of that initial pumping underneath the road was, when it's old, I think it handled, was rock sand the cul-de-sac, was it both? I thought there was a breakdown of the rock sand, 45, 50 or something like that. Maybe that cost is reduced or something because we fixed one area but still has one other spot. We're trying to look at all options, even if it needs to be addressed.
Now I'm looking at one picture where all the mud is, and then there's a piece of concrete missing that's part of that lip. I can tell you that.
It's very strange.
I'm like, okay, is it already breaking down too?
That's where that patch is at.
It's hard to, on page 250. On the left-hand side. Yeah.
A lot of curb is from the
Right here.
laborers for the houses.
Do they gotta come back and fix them?
The first round of curves that were actually broken were really injury that the injury that came in after construction.
Yeah.
So they did repair some of those, but
That's the right thing to do. You break it, you fix it, right?
yeah,
they should.
Who is it? That's all.
Yeah, right. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I see it. But I'm also seeing, like, it's hard for me to swallow saying, okay, we know that there's an issue, but we're going to take it because we know this is just going to be a money pit
Yeah.
and an issue. So it's,
My problem is we're at the end.
I understand.
We were told one thing, and now we're getting it changed on us.
I mean, I don't know if this is something the council wants to sit and talk about, and we table it and see, or, I don't know. So. I mean, I hope you use our point too, we can't accept it, yeah. But I mean, I think you've gone above and beyond spending $100,000 too.
That's why we're working to satisfy. So we
Yeah.
don't want to be proud of our community.
No, it's honorable and appreciated.
Well, it has improved, I have to say that.
Can we
And
hear
there's
from
no water
cities-
on my
Can we
side.
hear some advice from city legal counsel and city staff? I mean, we just let this go, what's it going to do to us? Or do we have any other alternatives?
So it doesn't sound like council wants to accept the job right now, and it sounds like Chris has proposed a possible fix, whether that be $80,000 or more. So it's just a question if council wants to go through with that fix and who's going to pay for it, or accept it. I mean, those are your two options: accept the work, or we know the fix, we know the cost, who's going to pay for it.
The other option is, if we want to, knowing, again, if we reduce it down and say, okay, we're comfortable with the rock slaying curb, because water's supposed to be in the curb of the street, we're not comfortable with the cul-de-sac, get quotes on what that is, so we have numbers in front of us between the developer and the city to say, is this, what is the cost to get this fixed to make this right? What is the scope? And is there, who's going to bear that cost?
Well, and to be clear, what we're asking is for there not to be any more ponding on Brock's Lane or in Scenic, because those are the two things we're asking. So whatever that comes out to, we're asking to that extent at which it's fixed and repaired, and there's no more ponding.
Right.
So to play semantics on we were only asked to do two things, it didn't solve the problem at hand, and so that's why we're still here. If it solved the problem, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
In your packet, I think is the memo, and it says in there, it lists these two areas specifically, and square footage of the repair, not the whole cul-de-sac. So it's not.
And was that a recommendation you made, Chris?
It is not.
Who made that
So
recommendation?
that was we had a meeting, there was a follow-up memo that was produced by L Squared on, this is the right one, June 10th. So it wasn't, the recommendation was, these are the two major areas that we see. Our thought, and the same reason that we're not coming to recommending acceptance, is the same thing you just said.
Yeah.
Is, yes, they address the major issues, there are still other issues, which is why I don't feel comfortable saying 100% we should accept the roads as they are, because of the aesthetic nature of this and the historical that the city has had to address road back in the streets before, when there's been complaints and has been on the city's dime. So again, I don't want to shy away from the fact that, as everyone's alluded to, the developer has put in a significant contribution to try to make this right and try to get it fixed. It's an unfortunate situation that we're in between the contractor and things like that. It's just where the roads are today and how they look. It sounds like it's not the ideal of what we want to street the city to look like, knowing it already has issues and taking it over to be our ultimate responsibility.
I think go back to kind of larger history is that, the first set of repair was a path lane replacement for around 300 feet. That was the first $80,000 or so. And then when we came back and had to do these repairs, it was, hey, we fixed that, we had to wait for Hills 4 because we wanted to just kind of scale, help blend that in. When we re-looked at it, these other two areas popped up. So I think kind of the intent, at least on our side, I mean, we're still working really well with the city. We're not trying to, pinpoint or anything, but we are trying to say that at that time, hey, replace this panel, spend on $80,000, that should be it, we'll go ahead and put this to bed. And then, hey, reflood the streets in two other areas. And that's why we were specific on, trying to be specific on about the 1,000 square feet area here in the corner of Rocks Lane. We got that, and then another spot in the cul-de-sac kind of popped up. And it wasn't because of work we did, it's just, oh, hey, we were looking at this again, and hey, we see this too. So it was, if anything, we really want to be specific as we can and just say, but I want something on another cul-de-sac somewhere else, in 3 months pop up and say, hey, you got to fix that one too.
You're playing hot potato with us.
Yeah.
Throw it over there and hope that it doesn't work.
We're just trying to find, means to do.
And again, the punch list was written, I have it with me for January, was, clean the streets, refund the streets, and test for burn. That was the written punch list and addressing issues. It wasn't specific to a certain area, just at the time, there was a lot of active home building, so there's a lot of dirt in the streets. And so we didn't say, before we could say, hey, this is a problem, we need to clean it and test it. And then is when we started running into the issues with the contractor and delaying repairs, and that. So again, it's, we can go back and forth, for hours and to this point, and we have. And so we're just, at this point, how does council feel comfortable moving forward, the steps to proceed, that ultimately there's an end goal in mind of getting the streets accepted, getting this closed out, that everyone's comfortable with, I would say happy with, but is comfortable with, the outcome moving forward with this contest.
Well, although I'm not pleased with it, I think the Stylecraft's done their part. And I would be in favor of moving forward with estimates and pursuing things that way. And it's a contractor issue.
But you're okay with releasing Stylecraft? You're okay with releasing Stylecraft from their warranty period?
Well, do we have, what are our options? You're speaking in terms of we're kind of in a bad place either way. Is that correct? And these things do happen where you have developer and then you have contractor and something falls through in between the written agreement, which is what happened here, that caused a bad situation. So I'm kind of perplexed a little bit because, you know, we sign off on something and then, again, I get where you're coming from. Where's the next deal?
You learn a lesson. You know, we have, the developer has a maintenance bond in the city that's already been, it's not the only reason why we're still here, but we're still here trying to get this to work. Developers won't be putting out maintenance bonds in the city anymore. You know, it will be the contractor. So if this type of situation happens again, we can hold on to the contractor. You know, and it was a decision made at that time. Reputable contractor, had references, been successful. They completed the project for the city. You know, kind of simultaneously. So you just don't see this kind of thing coming. So we learn our lessons that we won't let that happen again. Where the developers stuck hold back, but we're just here, just trying to figure out what we can do. I do, think that options are one. Are we okay with accepting it as it is by just, not that y'all have to fix it tomorrow, but is it okay to be that it be displeasing at certain times, or do we want to fix it? And if we need to fix it, what are some options and costs, and how can we all kind of work together?
If it's not something that council is comfortable accepting now, as maybe Councilmember Sanford was discussing, it is something we can take a look back to. I know that's not something that necessarily the developer would prefer to put it off. But if you're looking for numbers in terms of what it would take, I think, to rectify this, then we can't give you those exact numbers tonight.
Caleb, what's our legal recourse in regards to if we don't release them from a warranty, then what is the next step moving forward?
So my recommendation is not to, and just here, not to accept the project tonight and get estimates. Are we talking about a $20,000 fix, or are we talking about a $200,000 fix?
But how do we know that that's going to fix it? Because like they said, we gave them promises before that if they fix it.
That's why you have, I'm not an engineer, I don't know anything about that. So that's why you have experts go out there and do an estimate. And they tell you this is what it's going to cost to fix the project. And that could be, like I said, 20 grand or 200 grand, at which point the city may be willing to buy the bullet on the 20 grand, 200 grand, not so much. I mean, it's hard to accept the project. Once you accept, then it's on us.
Yeah.
So I would hold off on the acceptance, get some cost estimates, and see what number we're talking about, and then approach who's going to pay for that cost. Once we know what the number is.
Okay.
We just don't know what it is right now.
So do we need a motion?
I'll make
table?
a motion that we table this until January 11th meeting with the understanding that the city and the Stylecraft Homes will get together with some numbers of what it will cost to amend or fix the ponding on both Scenic and Brock's Lane.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we table item number 16 until January 11th, 2022 to discuss the ponding and Brock's Lane. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion.
And Scenic, right?
And Scenic.
Sorry.
Both areas. All those in favor of tabling this agenda item until January 11th, 2022 with regards to Hills of Town Creek, Section 3, Brock's Lane and Scenic, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will table this until January 11th, 2022. Further discussions at Hills of Town Creek, Section 3, Brock's Lane and Scenic. Item number 17, consideration of possible action regarding approval of a proposal for additional environmental and survey work for the Anders Branch Drainage Improvements Project.
All right, so starting on page 257 of your packet, this is regarding the GLO projects. So just real quick reminder, there's 3 projects included in the grant: a generator, water plant 3, sanitary sewer and drainage improvements along MLK, Baja Road, McGinnis, and then also a drainage improvements project focused on Anders Branch, which is 149 to MLK behind those houses in that section. You'll see in your packet there's some exhibits. So, kind of try not to get into too much detail, but give you enough. So the project was really scoped back in 2018, 2017, the grant was applied for. The intent was there was no work to be performed in the floodway, because that's what the GLO was saying we couldn't do. After the drainage study was completed, I had follow-up conversations. This is now January of 2021, this year. We then had follow-up conversations that you can do work in the floodway, but therefore now we're in the stream. So now we're in jurisdictional waters at that time. So the scope of the study of the project has changed, and so now in order to complete the work, there's a couple of different options we have. One is if we were to get the bottom of the creek and expand it out, that is now in jurisdictional waters of the U.S. due to the Clean Water Act. So you have to, and also potential wetlands, so you have to go for a nationwide permit as our first choice. It is a shorter process. It's a 2 to 3 month process. However, with the recent kind of administration change, the interpretation of the Clean Waters Act and how it's implemented also changes. So we're down to a nationwide permit, 3 months, we're limited to a couple 100 feet of channel. An individual permit, we can do a much larger project, but that is a 12 to 24 month process to get a permit, not to construct and do everything else. And then we have a time limit, and it's an expensive process to go through. It's a $7,500 process to get a permit. So option C is we look at the scope of the project is above the ordinary high water mark. So what that involves is there's an environmental engineer, environmental scientist that will come out and determine what is the ordinary high water level of the stream. And then all work that happens above that elevation is non-jurisdictional, therefore does not require a core permit. So there's no lead time. We're able to do the work without getting down into the stream. So what you have in front of you is a proposal to do that analysis from Jones & Carter, who is the engineer on the GLO project. Flipping to page 262, which has the breakdown of costs. So there's 2 pieces that are recommended to be included and the rest that are not. So items 1A and 2A are recommended. Items 2B, C, D, and E, we do not recommend approving, as those are if we are doing work below the ordinary high water mark and have to go for a permit. There's no reason to spend those monies today. We're trying to stay above the ordinary high water mark. So the items 1A is survey work. So this has been revised. So we negotiated and we had that as an hourly not to exceed. So it's the actual cost of the work to be completed by the survey crew. And that is to pick up all the stakes. So the environmental engineer will go out and flag and delineate the boundaries of all wetlands in the ordinary high water mark between 149 and MLK. And then the survey crew comes back after him, surveys it, so it ties it down, and so then the plans can be revised to reflect that. And it's, have confidence that any work being done is outside the ordinary high water mark to not be in violation of work engineers or anything like that. So there's 2 total. You have $7,800 for the survey work and $9,850 for the environmental consultant by Jones & Carter. So that is item 40. And again, this is to proceed with the grant, and the grant is a $2.3 million grant project.
That's not, well, it's our money, but it's not our money. It's not.
That's correct.
Tax
There's no city
generated,
match.
it's GLO.
Correct. There's no city match to that. This is, so the out-of-pocket costs that the city has had on this are the drainage analysis that was done and now the environment.
This has turned into a much bigger project than initially when we.
It has turned into, quite the issue of, what the scope was and how it was put together in the tables, which was done, 3 years ago now without a study, and it was done, but then that project has then morphed and changed over time. So the study was completed in January of this year, then the scope, and it's just, it's been a
Why is it morphing? Is the water changing? Is the topography changing? Why is it?
No, honestly, it's I believe it's just with the GLO and with any grant project, there's a lot of red tape. And so, nothing free comes free. And so there's a lot of process to get through. And, you know, the information received on where and when the project can be done and what limits has changed over time. And so now we're down to this point of, in order to get the project moving forward, complete the work above the ordinary high water mark, still gets us the benefit of the project, still gets us the additional capacity without the time and expense of the core permit. I think Dave.
And one thing, just to add to that on the tail end of that, in the memo, our grant administrator, Grant Works, I talked to them just briefly today. They took a look at the proposal. They do want to circle back. The takeaway from what Chris said earlier is this, you know, the drainage portion of this project has kind of felt like it's turned into rabbit trails littered with engineering invoices. And we're, you know, snagging everyone. And it's not these guys, it's not specifically Jones and Carter, it's what it takes to unwrap the layer of working on a grant-funded project around the waterway.
Yeah.
And so we feel like, you know, both, you know, Chris and his team, the grant administrator, we feel like the deeper we get into the project, the scope of work keeps getting smaller, and the hoops we have to jump through keep going, you know, higher. So I do want to say, just in the context of approving this, Richard and I are going to be having a conversation along with Chris and the grant administrator later this week. What we're asking to do is, we'll notice before the holidays, we have to be totally complete with this project 1 year from this month, which is a very tight timeline. And right now, that is candidly, that is GrantWorks, you know, biggest concern is our best case scenario viable in 12 months? So we'll be talking to them about that, but we are asking you guys to give us the green light on this if we get it from GrantWorks. We're not going to move without it, but time is truly of the essence on these.
That's not even possible, though, if you go with the original permitting, more in-depth permitting that takes 12 to 14 months. So you have to go with the...
Right, exactly. It's kind of like the best option is, looks like it's going to take every bit of luck we can find on the way there just to meet the timelines again, because the odds of them, you know, extending us or anything like that are...
And we've already been awarded this grant, so now it's just jumping through the hoops to implement it.
2 of the 3 projects are ready to go, but all environmental clearance has to be had for all the projects before we proceed with construction. So it's, you know, even though they're unrelated projects, they still have to all be clear at the same time as this one grant.
And so we don't meet that timeline, then what happens? It just automatically stops in the middle of what we're doing?
No, so my understanding, and this is part of the conversation I had later this week, but the initial understanding was what it does is it affects, you're in the middle of a project, you're in the middle of construction, you're going to be able to complete those projects with funding, but it will affect scoring on future grants.
Okay.
That is what we're confirming this week.
No pressure, guys.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we're trying hard to make this work one way or another.
Yeah.
Not just for this project, but for future considerations.
Yeah.
As they both described in their own words, it felt like to us, because of the issues raised, because of the GMO, and because of the Corps of Engineers and any of the other players there, every time we feel like we make it to the end zone, we find out the end zone's moved back. And we get there, and again, and again.
I feel like someone else was just saying that. The last item. Yeah.
Pretty common.
I make a motion that we approve item 17 and with the consideration of 1A and 2A both as needed.
That's a,
It's been moved and seconded that we accept item number 17 with approving 1A and 2A. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the item as presented with 1A and 2A, is the option chosen, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept this item along with 1A and 2A as the options chosen. Number 18 on your agenda, consideration of possible action on construction of Klepper Drive sidewalk improvements.
The city, I think we all know now, but if we don't, surprise, the city was not awarded the grant on the Texas Transportation Alternatives for sidewalks in the city budget, something Dave and I have tried not to take personally from the state. However, these sidewalks were fully budgeted, and so we're prepared to begin moving forward with it. Our recommendation is to begin with the design work on Klepper Drive was recently approved, and the MEDC has also budgeted funds for sidewalk projects, and they would have an interest in working with this because these sidewalks fit within the confines of what MEDC funds can be spent on. The proposed portion on the mapping that you have, which is page 274, that's marked in orange, they connect the northeast portion of the downtown area with Buffalo Springs, Fernland Park, the city property on Clipper, and the county library, and other areas that are used for that parking in that area. The proposed sidewalk will be ADA compliant, and the work would also include essentially the drainage work that's needed with it. And that's been estimated here on page 273 at conservative cost level. The intent of this item is to allow the city engineer to begin the design work and to determine more specific project costs, and also to allow the city administrator to work with the MEDC to come back with a cost estimate of what MEDC participation would be for this project. City staff will also be working to prepare the 149 MLK sidewalk for another grant program, which will open for application in spring 2022. And Dave and I had a phone call earlier today, and that moving forward with that is actually part of that phone call, and how to better get in front of the grant program for the next application. We will be able to work on the design process for that sidewalk while that grant application is in process. We just won't be able to begin construction. So I don't want anyone to think that, okay, we're talking doing one sidewalk but not the other. We're talking about doing one first and then beginning the process with the second. It just so happens that at the timing of moving forward with the construction second would be working within grant eligibility for that other item.
Why didn't we get the grant? What was the reason?
We have a meeting set up, but that's not until January to get further input from them. What I've gathered from talking with GrantWorks is I believe the grant that we were up for was considered very, very, very competitive, and it's not a surprise that any single project does not get picked up. It's our hope that from the follow-up discussions we have, we will better able to learn what they're looking for, and I believe it may not be as much as the subject of the work, but how we put the application package together.
Now, wasn't the Clipper was an issue with MEDC, if I remember correctly, about the turtleback down the middle of the street and how it slopes to the cul-de-sac? Are we talking about fixing that? I seem to remember a conversation with Becky saying that when we did sidewalks on this street, that there needed to be a discussion about ripping out this road to make it more even. And so I don't want to put the cart before the horse and put sidewalks in, and then MEDC say we want to rip out the street.
Right. So that is not included, but what we're doing, what's different from what we were considering originally, was setting the stride walk further off, go ahead and putting the inlets, because there's a storm sewer on it, and putting a curb along that side. So that gives us the ability that when the road gets modified, because at one point in time it is, the sidewalk will be minimized and what has to be removed and replaced. Because that was the worry. We put in a sidewalk and then soon after we do the road and we have to rip up the sidewalk. So it's setting it off. Also included in here is some cost for acquiring easements if we need to go further outside the road and give us that space. And also there's kind of bumping around some parking lots.
One of the side effects of trying to do both at the same time is going to force them both to take longer. What we're trying to do is not be in that position. We're not saying we don't want to do the road, we will be trying to do the road, but that would be separate.
Do you have any kind of estimate of how far out we're talking the road redo is?
I don't.
That, what we were hoping for is to start moving forward the sidewalk, and then we'll start talking about the road when they go out and they survey and then where the drainage is, and then from that point, plan for the roads forward. We do have money in this year's budget for roads, and I think we can use that money later this year. Or at least that's my goal with that.
Yeah. I just don't want to put a sidewalk in that we're going to rip out. And whether it's 5 years or 3 months, I don't want to put a sidewalk in that we're going to have to rip out even a square inch of it.
Yeah, and that's exactly the discussion we had, why we're asking to go forward with it in this manner. As Chris said, like moving the sidewalk farther out so we can accommodate the drainage and the road.
Okay.
So, there's, full survey of it, finding where that storm sewer is, because the storm sewer that's along Klepper there's not good record drawings of it. So we're able to long-term plan, what is that road going to look like? So the sidewalk and the inlets are placed appropriately. So we're not redoing work in 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road.
I mean, we can all see a need for the sidewalk just from Christmas parade or any other parade with that parking lot being utilized. And then if you're putting a building at that city property at the road, then even more so, so.
Well, I'll make the motion, we approve item 18.
So tell me what we're actually getting in this. If we approve this, then the construction is going to get started? Or you're coming back with quotes and
So
all
what
of
this
this?
does is get started on the first step is getting the surveyors out there. With it being, we'll get them the notice to proceed. With it being the holidays, it's probably going to be mid-January by the time we get that back. To then produce the plans, produce the final cost estimate, and then proceed, do this, publicly bidding the project, then going through construction contracts, et cetera. So at the next meeting, I'll put together, a defined schedule for you to have. But likely, we're looking at, probably bidding this project in March timeframe, doing then contracts in April. So this will get started with construction May versus summer timeframe.
And isn't MEDC covering any of the cost of this, or no, this is?
That's with the city, yes, presuming the city council says yes, move forward with this.
Okay.
And we had some discussion at the MEDC meeting, the last MEDC meeting. I will go back in January, report back to them, and then get their vote for, okay, we will allocate this much. There is money allocated for sidewalk projects in their budget. Presuming that's more than $10,000, city council would have to approve that. I have a feeling that would be a sure thing if that was the case right now. So I, Chris sat back, I will come back and say, here's what an ADC looks for the project. Knowing that also, they began the downtown master plan as part of the plan.
Right.
They do want to participate. And they do have an interest in getting these sidewalks done as well, so.
So that discussion, you just leave it open to interpretation that they throw any number at it that they can and or want, or could we suggest a percentage of a 25-75 or a 50-50 split?
But I have $40,000 that's budgeted to sidewalks. We didn't discuss a specific number at the meeting, so I can't speak on their behalf to say how much, but that's what they put in their annual budget for sidewalks.
Okay.
My belief is they weren't needing like $5,000, but a substantial portion of that 40, if not the whole thing.
Thank you for clarifying.
Well,
I will second Myron's motion.
Yes, we're going to say that we accept item number 18 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 18 on your agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We will accept number 18 as presented. Number 19. Consideration and possible action regarding adoption of the following ordinance. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Montgomery, Texas, establishing a maximum prima facie speed limit along FM 1097, all lanes from the eastern right-of-way of FM 149 to the northeast city limit of the city at 45 miles per hour, providing a penalty of an amount of not less than $1 or more than $200 for violation of any provision hereof, repealing all ordinances inconsistent or in conflict herewith, and providing for severability.
Right. This item, so this is the speed study that was performed, you all approved. It was sent on to TxDOT agreed. It's in order to move this forward to get enacted and need an ordinance passed by council to compare to them, and that's what this is.
This is yours.
It's your moment.
TJ, you got your wish.
Merry Christmas.
I hadn't voted yet.
I make a motion that we accept agenda item 19 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 19 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 19 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept number 19 as presented. Number 20 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding adoption of the following resolution. Resolution casting votes for candidates for the election of the Montgomery Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Okay, we had nominations a couple months ago. The city council chose to nominate Adam Simmons for this position. This local area has been on the MISD board previously. There's biographical information attached for persons who included it to MCAD by the time this was distributed. You see the names on the ballot for those that are there. The city has 5 votes. You can cast them all for one person, or you can split them up. Being that the city council previously nominated Adam Simmons, my assumption would be that we can cast 5 votes for him. But it's at council's pleasure, so what does the council wish?
Well, I'll make the motion, we approve item 20 with all 5 votes going to Adam Simmons.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 20 with all votes going to Adam Simmons. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting number 20 as presented, along with Adam Simmons with 5 votes from the city of Montgomery, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 20 as presented with all 5 votes going to Adam Simmons from the city of Montgomery. Number 21, consideration of possible action regarding the proposed code enforcement officer position.
Mayor and council, good evening again. As you know, the city has recently posted for, got approved through the budget process, a part-time code enforcement position. The police department has put together the application, posted the application, and received about a dozen applicants. Of those, 2 had prior code enforcement experience. One was only looking for a full-time job. The other one just didn't call us back. What I think the chief has found in advertising for the position, and again, like it's mentioned in the memo, it's posted on 3 places, the website, and .com, and TML's job board, is that right now, you may have heard, it is a job seeker's market, not an employer's market. And despite a salary that was several dollars an hour higher than what a typical code enforcement officer would make, we are having a hard time attracting anyone to a part-time position. And again, our initial thinking behind that salary was to look for an off-duty police officer from another entity who might be interested in a part-time job if the pay was right. But again, we're coming to you to ask you, do you want us to keep hunting? Because we will, if we need to revise, we feel like we've got a good job description, we feel like we've got a good application process. So again, the only thing that we can point to is that it's a part-time position, and it's very difficult to fill right now.
Well, this is a huge need for the city, and I'm all for full-time. And what people need to understand is, as you have stated here in item number 2, if this person is full-time, they can help with the tremendous numbers of city inspections by way of the engineer, which has a domino effect of getting a little bit of the load of the growth off the engineer. I think it makes perfect sense to go full-time.
Right. There's items that will still fall under the specialty inspections of engineers, but the things that they look at, like silt fencing and things like that, when they're out on the job, making sure the materials are picked up, there's not trash and debris, things like that blowing around. It's very easy for somebody to do. And it ultimately does, it does lower the invoices, a small fraction, on those engineering invoices, because again, it's work being picked up by staff. So biggest implication is obviously not, as I pointed out, is not this year going from half-time to full-time. It's just a consideration, hey, you know, it's obvious, but you know you're going to need to budget for it every year.
So we're not necessarily approving 62,000 or anything, right? There would still be, let's go that direction and negotiate, or is this also approving that salary?
Right. What we're asking for tonight is just to give us the direction. There's money in this budget item to pay for the near term, so we don't need to do a budget amendment in order to get this going. But again, we would come back before the end of the year, likely not just for this one specific item, but as part of a bigger budget amendment to reconcile several costs. And you see what this year's cost implications are.
Who does this person report to? Sorry, were you asking
Go ahead.
a question or did I just start?
Probably.
Okay, sorry. Who do they report to?
Right now, the intent is for me, being over the development services in the city, that is generally where code enforcement winds its way, is through either the community development or development services. It can certainly be done through the police department. There's a lot of overlap here. Code enforcement, again, is kind of a marriage of police work and zoning. You know, put together, there's a lot of both.
So it'd be you and the police chief?
Right.
So they would report to two people?
No, ma'am. They have one supervisor, and it would most likely be me.
But they will have to work closely together with both.
Right. They're going to need to be talking with the court about, you know, making sure any of these cases that end up either going to trial, because that's where, you know, code enforcement, if unresolved, is where they're always going to end. So they overlap a lot, again, with the police. If there's a situation, again, we are still anticipating a non-uniformed officer. We're not looking for a police presence in our code enforcement, but certainly they would, you know, be, you know, well plugged in. If they needed the police on an issue, they've got the police there to work.
And I can tell the council from my observation, having seen both Dave and the police chiefs work together on the development of this position, the development of requirements, and working through the process. They are certainly very well equipped to work together with a person without there being any unnecessary friction between the two departments.
I'm not worried about the friction between the two departments. I'm just worried about, I think there should be one person. And it's my understanding that smaller cities, or a lot of cities, go through the police department. And we seem to have code enforcement right now has been a black eye on this city. And I know Chief is like, right is right and wrong is wrong, and it's very distinct. And I'm kind of thinking the Chief should have it.
Chief, you want to speak to any of that?
What Richard said.
Wait till you get to the book. Wait.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you when they're watching.
Okay, there'll come times when whatever comes up and whatever the circumstances are, we'll handle that. And on the other circumstances, Dave will handle that. I think we'll work great together on that. We're not a power struggle here. We're just making sure things are done right.
Budgetary wise, didn't we put the 30,000 underneath the police budget?
I don't think so.
I think that would be administration.
It is, okay, I thought it was, please.
But notice, we put together the questions for the interview. We put together criteria for the code enforcement officer. Also, my administrative assistant used to handle the code enforcement. The letter that we recently sent out, that came from a program that we had. So we've gotten all of that, and we put it together with Dave. And so it's all been put together with both teams. So we're good.
So is the idea that if we say, hey, let's go to a full-time, then you're looking at hiring the one candidate that called back that was only interested in full-time? Are we going to repost this and see if we get others, or?
We'll repost it at full-time. What we got was a lot of part-time people.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't have any experience, and this is something that we need to hit the ground running with.
Yeah.
And we don't have time. Code enforcement is a lot of training. So if you can find someone who already have the experience, that's going to be better for the city as well. And the one person said, look, the reason why I signed up, I'd love to work for the city of Montgomery, but I can't do it part-time. So.
And Officer Bauer was the last one we had, correct? He was our last code enforcement.
Officer Bauer is a good guy.
Partially.
He went to a couple classes, but to call yourself
He wasn't fully vetted,
he did a
yeah.
lot more classes than what he had.
I was just pointing out too, it's under the police department. Okay.
Well, I make the motion the staff pursue a full-time code enforcement officer as soon as possible.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the proposal for a code enforcement officer. This motion is debatable. Amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion.
But don't send them to College Street right away.
All those in favor of the proposed code enforcement officer, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the proposal for the code enforcement officer position. Number 22 on your agenda, consideration adoption of a resolution in support of a matching funds grant for the Montgomery Police Department.
Mayor, Council, what we're asking you is to authorize a proposed resolution for a grant that we're asking the state for. It's a matching grant. It's for our servers, our body cam servers. Our body cam server is not enough capacity, and we're having to purge that. We're having to purge it. And for evidential reasons, and also for inside and outside, internal investigation, outside investigations, sometimes we'll need to keep some of those videos a little bit longer. And right now, we just don't have the capacity to hold that without purging. So we're going out for this grant. It's a match of, city's match is about $2,309. But it's very much needed so we can stay with the capability that the state requires us to do with our videos.
So the 2,300 is 25% of the matching funds? Okay.
How big is the server you're looking at?
The server we have now is about 11. So this one is bigger. I'm not quite sure how much bigger. But what we had is a situation here. Is when I came here 2.5 years ago, we had body cams that the city had purchased that had never been used. They were still in the box. So what we did, those body cams were obsolete at that time. So we made a deal with the company to get some more body cams. We got the new body cams. With the new body cams, we started putting in, then we put in officers. So we put in more officers, and then we put a policy together for those body cams and how they're supposed to work. Once you do that, body cams from any incident is supposed to be on from the time that incident starts to the time it ends, which starts to take up more and more and more room. So once you put a policy together, once you add officers, the server there would have never been big enough, but we had no idea about that until we started using it.
I was just curious, this is my line of expertise, and I just wanted to see how big it was and how much you thought, how long it would last, the space.
It'll last a long time if we keep purging, but we need something else to continue.
Is there a time limit you have to keep the body cams? Is there?
90 days.
Okay.
90 days. But as we know, some of those videos will go past the 90 days. As I said, if we have an internal or an external investigation or for evidential purposes, we may need to hold on to those. Because sometimes what will happen, as soon as we purge a video, somebody comes back with a complaint and we say, that video's gone, you know.
Okay.
I make a motion we adopt the resolution item number 22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution for item number 22. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 22's resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will adopt the resolution for item number 22. Departmental reports, number 23, City Administrator's report. Richard?
You have my written report. I just want to touch on a couple of items.
Richard, can I stop you for just, is there any way we can take a 5-minute break?
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Please?
Please.
I'm sorry.
I
Like, I had to go to the restroom and I need to go and.
I just need to stand up.
Sorry.
Did you approve that, Mayor? I'm sorry. I just assumed you did.
I want you to continue to sit, Carol. I want you to give me your jacket.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Just remember,
Yes.
don't say anything or must be
Oh, good.
Yes.
Chiefs.
Sure. Got the time.
And I put a copy of the council procedures for
Yes. Which, if we have issue with that, and we want to change some things, we should bring that up at that time.
I have it put in for special meetings where you have to have a super majority because that was the original. So that's been the laws. Now, it was just a clear. Can't figure out if it's freezing or the heater comes on. It's done 4 different.
And I was like, this is comfortable, and then I hate this thing.
And then all of a sudden you turn in, and I was like, I was getting cold, and then I could your table.
I could take my jacket off, but then I know what's going to happen.
No,
So
you don't
I'm
need
not
to
even
do
going to do that.
I'm guessing we took a break. I got a 2-hour window, get 2 hours. Every time I talk, every time I do, I always request you to be close to it. You got a 3-minute passing period, this whole course, you got to go an hour and a half long, you know, especially. Yeah, that's where we
No, they just put that in here. Yeah, this actually goes to Anthony. That's one of the rules.
I better go put some book on, got
Oh, yeah. Awesome, yeah. Good for you. Yes, please. Pencil it in.
Apparently TJ needed to run out too, so. Oh, did you?
That was always my deal when I was teaching school. I was saying always, otherwise I couldn't be back in 3 minutes.
I tried waiting over there for you to come out to go to that one. I was like, no, might as well just run to the front one.
Maybe this is some food in here. Surely it's some food in here.
I bet it's some kind of snacks. Are you getting hungry, Carol? Are you going to start nibbling on the box?
It's my 8 o'clock, a cup of hot tea and a snack.
Uh-oh.
See?
Look, it is, Carol.
Is it some snack?
It's sausage and popcorn and nuts and cheese.
Oh, my, look. This is a good. This is a real good.
I'm like, TJ's back if you want to. He's just chatting now. just like Byron had snuck out and I needed to go, I figured.
But it's not unusual, this field, and not one of the times. It's also not unusual to take a break.
So we're 2 hours in on a 391 page.
No, sorry, I got to go.
The last MDC.
Now, we do have one. Oh, that's right. Oh, I know what I'm working on, meeting with Commerce.
4 hours, Byron, no. No good.
Commerce people for several days.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. It's 8:18, just so you know, we'll enter back in. And we'll start off with the departmental reports and the city administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. You have my written report. I would serve to cover a lot of ground tonight, so there's a lot to cover, so I'm trying to get the basics going. I'd primarily like to just briefly talk about the two events we had the last 2 weekends. Light Up the Park on December 4th. It had the largest gathering I can remember seeing for that event. And when I noticed a half hour before the event, when I'm walking over there from City Hall, there's already a couple hundred people over there. And so I think it just bodes not just great for the current, but for the future of the city, seeing that many people come to an event. As I walked around talking to people, there are several people there that I talked to that this is their first Christmas in Montgomery, and they just love the small town feel of all of the things that happen here. And but many of you may know what I'm talking about Kevin Smith, or as he likes to be called, I guess, a hard time DJ Kevin Kev, who does some of the city events. First time I met him was him as a first-time resident at I think it was the National Night Out event in 2019. And he was just coming to his first event to meet people, and I've come to find for events like that, what I enjoy best about that is getting to walk around and meet the people who are maybe a little more off by themselves, introduce myself, talk to them, and just, find out what they like about Montgomery, what brought them here, and things like that. And I think those are the perfect opportunities for us all there. And with this past weekend, we had the Christmas parade, the snow party, the cookie walk, the home tours, the marketplace. Those aren't all city events, but they're all combined into one full day in Montgomery. The parade had, by last count I had, was over 1,900. It may have gone over 2,000 people in the parade. The official population of the city is basically around 2,000. So you had the whole, essentially equal to the whole population of the city in the parade, and then all these people watching the parade. One of the things I did immediately after was ride with Mike Montgomery, picking up some of the signs around and watching the traffic patterns going out. There were an awful lot of people who came in and left the city after that event. So they came to Montgomery specifically for the parade. But also, as I came back in, there were still an awful lot of people that had come to the city and were still here. So we are a destination to quite a few people out there, and I think that's important to call out.
And to clarify, the city does run the parade, the cookie walk, and the historical home tour is by the Historical Society, correct?
Correct. And the city also does the snow party with
That's right.
from the NEDC. And that was attended by approximately 300 children with the associated adults that come with those. So, and it was a very popular event for the people that were there. So it was a first-time event, and I think there's a good chance we're going to see it continue and become more popular. If you have questions, anything else in my report, I'd be happy to take them. All right, thank you very much.
All right. 24, the sales tax report. I was wondering why you were charging the podium. I was waiting for Chief to tackle you.
We're ready.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Derek Michael with SRI. And
bring your attention to the sales and use tax allocation report. Scrolling past the first page, you have 5,821 active taxpayers on your confidentiality report. So far in December, it was reflected 2,098 taxpayers, with the new average of 2,074 and a 5.5% increase over December's 2020 taxpayers. On the next page of that will be your, so far in the sales tax calendar year 2021, you've received $4,071,078.89. And so far with the February still being your highest tax paying month, this next list will be the top 25 for the entire year. And then under confidential report on the other column, it'll show the actual allocations, the breakdowns for it. And this public one will just show the actual list and the ICS numbers. The following page after that will be your filings for December. And if you notice that your Panda Express is now in your top 25. And so,
I hear nothing but great things.
yeah, and it's the second month that has remitted its allocations. And so it had a huge jump from the November 1 to this December 1. And I'm sure if, after another few months, it'll take.
They accepted the November report because the December report didn't come to us. So just make sure that it's in.
Okay, no problem. Oh, so you guys have the November report?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let me switch.
We like our food. Chick-fil-A, Panda Express, 2 Starbucks.
For those who don't know it, when you see the other side written up there, that's the business name for Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Okay, so for November, you had 2,207 taxpayers, an average of 2,073, and a 6.3% increase over November of 2020. And then you have your top 25. So for November, your allocation was $3,782,121.14. And then going for your November 1, next month you'll see the Panda Express. And then following that will be the November and October comparison lists. And then the following page after that will be your Nexus. I'm in the process of finishing your guys' Citus drive and doing an audit to submit those to the accounts examiner, the comptroller. And so this page will change from the next one that reflects that I come back out to give you guys.
Is it possible to understand what's food versus what's retail versus what's IT versus what's bed and breakfast?
Yes, your NICS numbers will be the designation of that. I can add into another report for the business breakdown of the pie chart and tell you guys within your sales tax contributors which one is a full service restaurant, limited service restaurant.
Can I ask for that for the next? I'm just curious. Thank you.
That'd be good.
All right, and flip past that will be summary of your allocations. And so for the month so far the city's received $37,054,156.99. And for November of 2021, it was $540,960.11. You're 30% over your November of 2020 of $416,557.44. And so for the tax fiscal year of 2022, you're at $815,722.75. And for your $2.2 million budget, you're at 37%. For your total applications from 2012 to present, $22,581,265.05. And then at the bottom will be your calendar year means and averages. And so for $3,782,121.14, your average is $343,829.19, which is well over your last year's mean or average of $231,029.67. And then on the next page will be just a graphical breakdown of your monthly allocations going back to 2015. And for November was $540K. The page after that will be your previous year's variance, and it was a 30% increase over last year.
I'm sorry, November was not quarterly. Is that quarterly?
It's usually a quarterly payment.
Okay, all right. I'm just going. We've never had 540,000, and that's huge. So,
Yeah,
okay, I'm just curious. It's awesome.
And then the page after that will be your yearly allocations, with the green line being your budget line. And then the variance below that. And then the following graph is just the means and medians graphed out back to 2015. And then the following pages, the 2 pages will be the NICS code breakdown, and it'll just say, one's a construction, sand, gravel mining, one's a furniture store.
And so right now, I'm completing your guys' statuses and generating a list to submit to the accounts examiner and the comptroller and to verify the list. Your confidentiality report in regards to Texas Twist. The confidentiality report only reflects those taxpayers that pay $5,000 or more annually. And so he can't be remitting his sales tax, but it's just not going to show up on there. And then so I've submitted, after talking to Mr. Trans, I submitted that to the comptroller just to make sure that it's actually slated for your city.
Sure.
And then once I get a response back from them, I sent them a lot of information this past month, so I'm sure that I'm not their fan. So
Appreciate all your work.
that's all I have for you. If you have any questions or concerns.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sitting through this long meeting.
It's been interesting.
You can say that again. Public Works Department report, number 25. Mike McElroy.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. You have my report in front of you, and I'd just like to start off by kind of echoing what Richard said about the events this last weekend, the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of work that goes into those events. I'd like to thank the police department for, doing the majority of planning and all the work. My guys, do a lot of work on it also, but I just want to thank the chief publicly for, all the work he does for it, and my guys for everything that went into it. If y'all have any questions directly related to the report, I'd be happy to answer anything you have.
It looks like we've got a new face. You have a new employee?
We do.
Okay.
So we filled the administrative assistant position. Her name is Nicole Minter.
Okay.
And she is working out very well.
Good.
Very well.
Okay. Well, I have to say, every time I see your guys on the weekends and working outside the normal city hours, always kind, always smiling, and willing to talk to anyone. And you've done a good job of building a solid team.
Group. I can't
You do have a
complain
really
about
good
that.
team.
Thank you. No question? Thank y'all.
Right, next up, number 26, police report. Chief Solomon.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have the report, but let's go back to what Mike was talking about earlier, putting a lot of work into these things. I think when you guys interviewed me, I told you I was a developer. I've developed a guy that does that. I don't do that anymore. And he does a really good job of it. I make sure I check and see what he's got going on and make sure it's what we want for a standard here in the city. But I've got Lozano who's doing those things, and he's doing a really good job at it. So we're sending him to more and more training, because these incident commands are the way to go when you're talking about events these days. Because no matter where it happens at, nobody ever thought it would happen there. So I thank you for that, but I've got people that really do a really good job. We got some talented people, so I'd like to give them some credit for that.
Thank
you have my report before you. Any questions?
Any arrest from trick or treat?
No.
Light up the park?
No.
And parade?
Parade? No. Everybody was really good at all those events.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Next up, Kimberly Duckett, court report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. You have the court report for October before you. Collections for citations were 103, and the collections were $29,668.47 for October. And for November, we had $23,458.35 for collections for the court. Are there any questions regarding the court report?
There's a new face over there too, correct?
Yes, I hired my part-time court clerk. Her name is Ms. Connie King, and she's working out fabulous.
Good. And she was already one from somewhere else?
No, ma'am, we're starting from scratch.
So she'll be doing her court training?
Yes, she will.
And when would that be?
I'll have to look on CMCC to see when the next class will be.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, utility report.
All right, you have the utility report on page 324. The high points I'd like to hit, point out that PD had $800 from donations towards National Night Out. Under permits on the second line, over $42,600 applied to permits. On the next page, you can see primarily that's 19 to 35 are in new homes, and those are partly Hills of Town Creek, but mostly the early permits for Town Creek Crossing. So we're already starting to see those be permitted, and those homes are going to start moving forward in the near future. So I suspect you're going to see that area fill up relatively quickly with the market that's out there. So if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to try that. Thank you very much.
Next up, the water report. H2O.
Good evening, Council. I'm Anthony Freeman, the Operations Manager. I'm standing in place for Michael Williams. And you have the operations report in front of you. On page 1, we have the district alerts, where we had a couple of power surges where it called out high level or generator running. We came out to investigate. Page 3 is flow for the month of September, or for that period, was 5,647,000 gallons. Daily peak for the period was 325,000 gallons. The average daily flow was 188,200 gallons. Page 4, there was no, for the wastewater plant, there was no excursion for the month of October. The water report on page 5, the total source water was 13,802,000 gallons. We flushed 157,000 gallons, sold 12,760,000 gallons, and accountability was 94%. Connections, the school has 12 connections. Commercial inside is 169. Commercial outside is 1. Residential inside, 793. Residential outside is 29. Churches is 14. The city, 15. Hydrants, 7. Multifamily, 14. Total of 1,057. On page 6 and 7, that's a 13-month history of the groundwater production. Y'all have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 30, Finance and Quarterly Investment Report. Anthony Lasky.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just want to present your October information. We'll have your November, December at your next meeting on January 25th. So on the first page, I went ahead and added both the infrastructure and mobility investment tax pool accounts on, it's below your construction fund, and those will just continue to be added as we go. Page 3 on your report, your account balances. You're currently at roughly 4 months reserve for your operating fund, bulk of that being the Kroger payment that was made in October, which that check is finally cleared, which that'll show as well next in your next month's meeting. That those payments were made on page number 7 of your cash flow report. And on page 4 for your MEDC, you have a little over 2 years reserved there, and in your utility fund, just under 11 months. And then going on to your budget on page 11, for the month of October, we were pretty even both on expenditures and revenues, just a smidge higher on expenditures, roughly 1,300 over, so not really that significant, but most of the upcoming revenues that we'll start to see, your sales, your ad valorem taxes will start coming in around the January timeframe. So by the time the February 22nd meeting hits, we should be starting to see the bulk of those coming in. For the month of November, For your sales tax, we did receive the highest that I've seen, $540,960.11. And then I just got December's numbers a few days ago. The number was $288,957.75. And then I also have your quarterly investment report to show all your money market CDs and pledged securities for y'all to review.
You said December was already at 288,000?
288.
We're not even halfway through the month?
I got the numbers on December 8th. Yeah, December 8th. Because usually the second Wednesday of the month or so is when we will receive those, depending on depending on how the calendar falls.
And that's a lagging report because the company does business in one month, they file it the next month, and the comptroller pays it the next month. So that's all the money that we're going to be getting from the comptroller unless there's something unusual.
That's all I have unless you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, last but not least, Chris with the engineer's report.
Here's 387. Item number 1, downtown water line replacement. Contractor's has finished addressing the punch list items, and John's Cars are preparing the final closeout documents for that project. They received payment number 9, about $13,680. It says they're 92% complete by value at that time. We also received number 10, but we had some comments to it, so it's being revised, and we'll have that at your next meeting. Water plant 3 improvements, there's an aerial photo shown below from 2 weeks ago, kind of the status of those projects. So you can see in the background of the picture, the new hydro tank is installed. The foreground of the picture, the old ground storage tank is demolished and the foundation was excavated. As of today, they are putting in the rebar to then pour the foundation prior to Christmas. And just a reminder, the schedule for that is they have substantial completion in May of 22, with the tanks being online in April of 22. So we're working with them to see if we can get those, especially the ground storage tank online sooner, but that's currently what their schedule is showing. Page 388, the GLO projects are listed. I know we've talked about that. Speed study we've talked about. All the traffic signal warrant analyses have been submitted to TxDOT. And the cleaning and televising project, we will have bids at your January 25th meeting, so second meeting in January. Plan reviews are listed. We had 2. One was for Shipley's, which is the northeast corner of CB Stewart and 105. And then Town Creek Crossing 2, we will review their drainage impact analysis report. So no plans are planned at this time, but just the drainage impact and the associated map revisions they'll be doing with FEMA for the floodplain. Hills of Town Creek Section 4 amending plat. We did receive and sign that plat. It will be recorded once they submit all their required documents. What that was is they adjusted a lot line on 2 lots just to account for the shape of the lot to be able to better fit homes. So no change in size or number of lots. Town Creek Crossing Section 1, they are still addressing punch list items. We would expect that to be complete this month. On your 1-year warranty, ongoing items, we talked about Hills of Town Creek Section 3. Section 4 is coming up in March. Ongoing activities, the new ones are just kind of updates. The turn lane at 149 and 105, according to their last schedule, was still about 4 months after Entergy has completed, so that puts it as a March-April completion date. And that's as much detail as we have at this point. Item number 5 is a new item, but we're going to keep this on here for a while. The Access Management Project, so this is starting at 2854 as a TxDOT project, goes all the way to Conroe, so everyone's seen it. It's closed off, they're tearing up the intersection. The schedule for the entire project through 2022, I talked to TxDOT today, they did not have a defined schedule for the portions within the city, which is what we're trying to get so we can give y'all updates. But what they're doing is they're putting extending the turn lane on westbound 105 heading north on the Lone Star Parkway, and then also we'll be moving over to the CBS corner and on 105 eastbound going south on the 2854. That's what they're working on right now. Water well performance test, we did receive those results. We had a typo and it was a carryover from an old report. about the reduction in efficiency. Your efficiency on those wells have been consistent for the past 4 years, so there's not a change. So that is a misstatement. All wells are operating as they should, and they're holding steady at efficiencies and capacities. The other thing that I don't have on here, just kind of an update, is in January we'll be presenting to you your updated projections on water and sewer up through 2050. So what we've done is we have 1 year up through now to 2030, and then every 5 years from 2030 to 2050, as well as a capital improvement plan with that to show how we hit those milestones. So, 2030 we're expecting this much flow. Here's the infrastructure we need at this point to meet that. And then, for the sewer plant, we don't want to be doing a plant project every other year. It's planning it out. Here's where we are now. 10 years down the road, now we do the next phase of that plant. Phase it out. So we'll have that to y'all in January to get kind of comprehensive look at water, sewer, drainage, or really water, sewer, your roadway improvements, and then your updated projections on those. So
that's going to be very helpful for us. I appreciate you doing that. I saw a glimpse of that when we met. So
right. It's helpful. It's a great tool, and it's putting it. As I've said before, we've done a lot of the studies and the previous ones, kind of bringing it all into one piece, and then start checking off the boxes and getting complete. So, the first step, getting this clean televising project done, so now we have a good evaluation of all of our old sewer lines to know, take care of what we have, and then what we need going forward in the future. That's all I have.
Do you have an update on the Buffalo Springs and Lone Star roundabout that we talked about?
We did not. I received the revised level of service analysis. I need to follow up on that and then talk with Richard and get a follow-up meeting with the county on how the updated cost estimates and time to proceed with that. I do not. We'll include that in our report next month and have a better update for you then.
Okay, and then I'm hearing that there's going to be a median down 105 from Conroe to here. Do you know when TxDOT's going to start that project?
That's the access management plan. So that is number 5. So it includes. That's that entire project.
Okay.
That's a median. We just got the plans yesterday.
Okay.
But it's a raised median all the way down.
But it's not greenery. They were talking about doing greenery.
No, so we've had discussions with TxDOT on that. Right now, it is just a paid median.
Okay.
But there's an option for the city to partner with them if they want to at the city's expense to put in greenery monuments on some stuff. But it was not, this project is normal raised median.
But the only part that's coming through the city is to the Lone Star Parkway.
That's correct.
To Stewart Creek. It's not coming through.
That's correct.
It stops at the Lone Star Parkway.
Yes. So it stops there. It goes a little bit past just with some striping, but nothing past kind of Kroger. There is a second TxDOT project. Now I have to look at the timing on it. It's from the Grimes County line back into the city. It has a lot of the same components. I need to look at the timeline on that one. It was further out.
And isn't there, in Conroe, it's extending from Conroe this way too?
That access management plan is
yeah.
all the way from Conroe to.
Okay, I was thinking it was just. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a long.
I was just asked about that the other day, so.
Yeah, it's a big project.
That's the one that also reduces the speed limit from Conroe all the way to the city limits to 45.
That was the temporary reduction in speed. So the ordinance that we passed a few months ago was a temporary reduction in speed during construction for the segment of the city. So after construction is complete, it automatically, I had language in there that it automatically reverted back to the original speed.
And what is going on next to Starbucks?
Next to Starbucks,
There's that pad?
I think they're building out that pad.
It's just a pad, so there's not anything slated.
So
I was thinking that's where the Discount Tire was going.
No, so Discount Tire is going to be at the corner of Buffalo, the northeast corner of Buffalo Springs and 105.
Yeah.
On that hard corner.
Yep.
At your next meeting, we're going to have another escrow event for Dutch Brothers Coffee. Let's approach the city. It's going to be next to Blue Wave Car Wash. So that same.
Is that a brick and mortar?
It is.
Okay.
So it's only.
Coffee's big business.
Apparently.
It's only
Mr.
a-
Coffee Lady downtown is extremely excited. She's had tons of business now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
She's
a
doing
drive-through
good. She's doing really well.
So they have no inside seating.
No idea. We are coffee, donut eating, Mexican food eating people.
Don't forget our barbecue.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering what that was. People are asking me and I'm thinking, I don't know. what that is, but it's just.
So the original were approved for 2 buildings. They constructed the one, now they're constructing the second. I have not heard of any lease space in there.
So this is, getting the points, personal government.
I make a motion to approve all the departmental reports.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve all the departmental reports. This motion is debatable. Amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the departmental reports, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the departmental reports as presented. 31 items in 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're going to go into executive session. The City Council reserves the right to discuss any of the items listed specifically under the heading, this heading, or for any items listed above in executive closed session as permitted by law, including if they meet the qualifications in section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, 551.073, deliberation regarding gifts, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberation regarding security devices, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations of the Chapter 551 of the Governmental Code of the State of Texas. 32, will adjourn into closed executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Government Code, and in accordance with the authority contained in the following: A, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. It is 8:48, and we will head into executive session.
I'm sorry.
Faxes over to MDOT, so it's before the deadline.
Aw, thank you, thank you.
The GA gave us some slide rules and protractors and
Santa showed up.
Yeah,
engineering game.
that's all right. Thank you.
Inquiry, I have one thing to bring up.
Okay.
Something else.
Thank you. All right. It is 9:09, we're going to go back reconvene into session, an open session. And next on the agenda will be the possible action from executive session, number 34. Consideration of possible actions, if necessary, on matters deliberated in closed executive session.
I make a motion, is that what I'm saying? I make a motion to give authorization to city staff to make a proposal to the property owner.
A second.
Yes, moved and seconded that we direct city staff to, they are authorized to make a proposal to the property owner. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of giving the authority to the city staff to make a proposal to the property owner, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we are authorizing city staff to give the property owner a proposal. Council inquiry. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.042, the mayor and city council members may inquire about a subject not specifically listed on this agenda. Responses are limited to the recitation of existing policy or a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry. Any deliberation or decision shall be limited to a proposal to place on the agenda for future meetings.
I just have a comment. I'm sorry.
You're fine,
Given the amount of mud on my feet, my grandkids and everything else, it really would be great as we proceed in the development of Klepper to somehow get some concrete. And when I say concrete, I mean we already impose a lot on retail places. We already ask people, and that's part of our plan, we should share and those types of things. But I think we can help ourselves out. I talked to a developer yesterday, and without any prompting at all, can you please do something about parking? And so that developer's been, in two different capacities actually, asked to share, for people to use their parking spaces, and they said, well, there's a liability deal. You don't just turn it over, you know? So my thought is, if you build down Klepper something that's retail, you're not helping yourself. So I'm not saying that the property that we currently own is the spot for the city hall. I'm not implying that. But it might make sense that some government agencies, you've got a school, you've got a city lot. I just want staff to think in that terms, because that would really help if we had parking space with government entities that wouldn't mind turning their parking space over for those 500,000 people that walk past me. They just kept coming. I don't know, they were at Ransoms, they were down, and they just a flood of people. It's hard to calculate, Richard, how many. You said, I believe it, about 2,000 in the parade. Seemed like another 2,000 was walking in front of me from the Sci-Fair. I talked to people from Katy. So, and I know we've also inferred that maybe there's a better route for the future, knowing how big this is. So just keep that in mind. I mean, again, I'm not saying that's the grand plan. If there's a developer, somebody's got a better idea, we ought to look at it. But I do think there's a walking distance point, and I think it's clever, that makes sense to me, that can help with the overflow of these special events. Just a thought.
That's really, it's always been though too. We used to have the fields to park in, and the fields are all now houses. So we lost all our parking. Okay, the other thing I was going to bring up is I noticed on the Lone Star Parkway, if you head 149 and turn west on the Lone Star Parkway by the community center, there's a giant spool of cable just on the side of the road. Is that our responsibility? Like the spool, like it fell off a truck and broke, and it's just laying there on the south side of the Lone Star Parkway.
It depends. So the bridge is kind of the dividing line between city city limits is right there at the bridge.
It's before that, so it's right by the, yeah, it's inside the city limits, yeah. But I just wasn't sure if it was our responsibility to pick up, or if it was something that Texas, I mean, it's a huge spool of cable. It's like it fell off of a truck and the cable broke, the spool broke, and so now whoever spool of cable it was couldn't pick it up because the spool itself broke. So it's just, it's probably 20,000 feet of cable just laying there in the ditch, the runway there.
You can ask the public works guys to take a look at it and see what it would take to get out.
It's a lot of work, though.
Maybe it's got some numbers on it, phone numbers.
And the other thing was there's some graffiti on the lift station down here on Old Plantersville. But it's on the wooden fence, and I don't think the wooden fence is ours. I believe that's that property owner's.
We did end up building that fence.
We built the property, so we have graffiti on the south side of that fence. It says, "Hey boy Matt," all over the side of it. And so is there a way that we can put that on the schedule to get it cleaned up?
We'll have to report that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know.
And other than that, I did a tour with Mike on water and sewer, and he was amazing. His crew was great and very much so welcoming. And I did slap on some boots just in case so that I didn't get muddy, but it was nice to understand what we have and don't have and need and will definitely need in the future. So.
Yeah, I know he enjoyed taking you. If there's anyone else from council that would like a similar tour for public works and facilities, by all means, let us know and we'll help you set that up. I do think there's a lot of value in being able to see some of the things up close that we talk about here. And so it's a little more than a theory when you've been out here.
That's right.
And the sewer treatment plant doesn't smell as bad as I would have imagined, so, you know.
Actually, a well-run sewer treatment plant typically doesn't smell.
That's right.
Now, if it goes bad, that's a whole different story.
Well, it was very informative, so I'm sorry that he's not here to hear that, but.
I'll be happy to pass it
Thank you.
on to him. I know he'll appreciate that.
Yeah. I did twist his arm and took him and one of his guys to lunch that day as kind of a thank you, but they were really super nice.
Where do the RFPs go that the state sends to the cities? The RFPs, like they're looking for XYZ company for this much land, if it's industrial or office building. They used to go to Shannon.
I know that we've been on those before, and it was something that I mentioned to him. We don't seem to be getting those from.
So maybe we're off the list, I'm thinking, because there's been quite a few. I just talked to a couple mayors the other day, and they were like, "Have you seen an uptick?" And I'm like, I haven't seen any. So if we could, and I called Shannon and asked her she didn't have any, so.
We'll go.
Yeah, we need to see, because, you know, we need to have some business here that's more than hourly, salary and career type, more than fast food and grocery stores. It would help us. So, and those RFPs are a great source of finding those companies. And if we don't respond, they don't know we're here. And if we don't know how to, anyway, it's a circle. So if we can just make sure we get on that list, certainly we have a lot of land that we could accommodate.
We'll make some calls, we'll do a little poking around and find out exactly where we need to be to get that done with that.
But imagine the economic development, the state of Texas economic development.
Shannon probably knows.
Yeah, I don't know if she didn't really say she did, but
We do have those emails, so going back to trace where they're from.
you do get them? Or?
No, we do have some of those.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I can search my email inbox and find those, from a year or 2 years ago.
Because I know I used to get them, and then I sent them over to Jack, and I didn't get
That's
them.
where I would see them.
Yeah. But if there's a lot going out, I think we should have our eyes on them since we've got raw land to offer.
Right, there are definitely whale, type projects, but it only takes one.
Well,
That's right.
Manufacturing or something would be fantastic.
Fort Finland's Amazon distribution facility, like Montgomery did something, right?
Yep.
2 of them. A $2 million square foot 2 million square feet of like Amazon warehouse. It's insane.
The industrial, so one of our clients, Ross, is building a facility, it's 2 million square feet, it's $400 million.
Holy mackerel, for Ross?
Ross.
What that would do to this city. But if there's hotels looking too, we need to get on that list and see if there's any hotels, because that would transform our city as well. The ability to keep people here overnight.
Okay.
I know, I'm sorry.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Richard has something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure council got the first shot inquiry. Back in October with the strategic plan, you tabled that until the end of January. January 22nd is the date I got from several on council. That was the best date, but I haven't heard from everyone. Is that something that we still wanted to pursue, or do we want to put that off to after the election?
Strategic plan, are you talking about the council therapy issue?
Planning.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to attend any, if we can do it after that, that's my point. Nothing's being adhered to. I've circled things that we said that we would adhere to and follow, and they haven't been since we went to that, and then since Ron was even here that day, there was quite a few. So if we're not gonna do it, why waste taxpayers' dollars, my time, your time, and his time?
Ron got back with me, and I just told him I would follow up with council. So I can go ahead and get with him and schedule that into, say, June following the next election. I think that's good with council. Okay, thank you.
Now, I make a motion to adjourn now.
Thank you.
Second.
I will second
It's
that.
been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. It's 9:20, and we will adjourn this meeting.
Y'all did a great job on the work.
Oh my gosh. Not what I anticipated.
We made